Welcome everyone to the 2022 Annual Parks and Recreation Commission Retreat. Happy to have the commission members here and Council Member Du Bois and Director O'Kane with us, as well as other staff members. Darren and Peter and Adam and Meg are working to join us. First off, I just wanted to review the agenda that we'll be going through today. There's a more detailed agenda that was sent out to everyone earlier. If everyone is able to review this, has everyone seen this, and does anyone have any questions or suggestions related to this? And if not, we'll move forward. Just a few housekeeping items, just some general items to talk about related to the commission, and seems appropriate for us to talk about in this occasion with a little bit less formal meeting. But some of the things that Vice Chair Lemaire and I have been talking about with staff are. And also with this first one specifically with a recommendation from former Chair Cribbs, is that our Parks and Recreation website really needs a refresh and an update. And so that's going to be a focus for us. And we can probably look to set up a ad hoc group to work on that somewhat independently with staff, and then loop in staff later. Part of that is we're all going to need to do our own part in that and make sure we submit bios to get added onto the website. After the website was redone, our bios disappeared. And for the new members, we want to make sure there's bios. We need to get the new members set up appropriately on the website as well, and make sure everybody has a photo. So those are some general things, and the minutes from previous meetings and need to get refreshed and updated so that that's easily accessible as a link from the website. And then we also want to look at what documents and what plans and things should be readily accessible. So this is something that I look forward to working with the commission on. Just wanted to highlight to everyone, you should have all received notice that our current terms will now be ending on March 31st, as opposed to December 15th. They've been extended as part of the effort to align the time frame for when all boards and commissions members are appointed. And so the first day of new commissions will be April 1st instead of December 16th as it's been. As a result of that, this is our next retreat is likely to happen sometime about 15 months from now, in May of 23. And related to that, our work plan, our next work plan that we'll be discussing will be in the 15-month time frame as well. So what that results in is that the current work plan and priorities that we're talking about this morning and this afternoon will be effective for a 15-month time period. And this is a one-time transitional change instead of looking at something that would be spanning 12 months. Any questions or comments or anything anyone else would like to add under the umbrella of housekeeping? If not, then I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Lemaire, and Jeff is going to give us a review of the 2021 work plan and accomplishments.
Chair Greenfield, should we do the roll call? And
excuse me. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, we should do roll call. And at what point would we look to accept public speakers?
I was thinking
there are no attendees at the moment.
Yeah, on the agenda, we've got the roll call, public comment for items not on the agenda changes and deletions, and then business for the retreat. I think we can take public comment as we start that item too.
Yes,
Well,
Yes, I'll start the roll call. Chair Greenfield,
here.
Vice Chair Lemire,
Here.
Commissioner Brown. She did say she's attending late. Commissioner Cribbs,
Here.
Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Here.
Chair, that's five of 6 present.
Thank you. And do we need to go through the motion to continue with a public meeting remotely?
no, we've done that for the month, Chair.
Done that for the month. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now's the opportunity for public comment, and see, are there any members of the public that would like to comment now? If so, please raise your hand.
I see no hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Then we'll proceed with the agenda changes, additions, and deletions, which I've already jumped through out of sequence. Does anyone have any further comments regarding the agenda? And then without further ado, we'll move on to business item number 1, which is the review of the 2021 Parks and Rec priorities and accomplishments. Jeff?
Thank you, Chair. I'll share my screen so we can review some of the highlights as I begin. 2021 into early 2022 was a busy time for the Parks Commission. Since the last retreat on March 12th, 2021, the Commission continued to meet remotely and held 11 public meetings. With an emphasis on the council-directed work plan, the Commission was very active. During the 11 meetings, the Commission took action on 15 items and held discussions on 15 items. A review of the year shows the Commission doing its best to nudge along recreation projects, tackle rules updates for court use and policy updates for Foothills Preserve, and provide a forum for discussion topics ranging from fundraising to water recycling while receiving updates on aquatics and the golf course. We are grateful for the guidance and regular attendance of Councilmember Koo and look forward to welcoming Councilmember Du Bois. I would also like to thank staff for all of their hard work. There was a lot done in these 11 months, and also want to thank past Chair Cribbs and past Vice Chair Greenfield for driving this agenda, because we really did push a lot of projects and did a great job with the agendas and tried to follow the work plan as best we could. I also want to welcome Commissioners Freeman and Commissioners Kleinhaus, and very excited to work with you guys and give you a review of what we accomplished. We had tried to align our priorities with City Council and look to maximize recreation opportunities using available resources, equity, access, and inclusion for programs, parks, and open space, Foothills Nature Preserve stewardship, and environmental sustainability and climate change. In looking over our agendas and then looking over what we did accomplish, I tried to break them out into some subcategories so we could see what those accomplishments were. And as you can see on the screen, we had a couple park improvement ordinances. I thought the Baylands Tidegate project was very interesting because we took that in a meeting, and then there was some items within the project that we hadn't received, or the project had changed a little bit, and we were able to push that to another meeting to take action on it. And then to have Bulware Park and all of the PIOs for the parks are always so important. We did spend quite a bit of time on policy updates and reviews, and the ad hocs spent a great amount of time with those policies. We started an ad hoc for the sidewalk vendor policy, and that became a very detailed oriented policy, as well as continuing our work with Foothills Nature Preserve and adding the open space photo and videography policy, which covers all of the parks. And then last within those policy reviews is the pickleball court. And our pickleball courts are used so much, and to be able to figure out the right policies for those and how that interacts with our other court users is extremely important. In terms of recreational opportunities, the skate park, pushing that forward, having First Tee present and getting an action with the public-private partnership and making a recommendation on that. And finally, the vision for a new Palo Alto gym. So quite a bit of work there with those ad hocs and with those items. With environmental sustainability, I really enjoyed the discussions and the people that we had come to our meetings, and I felt that the information they gave us really provided a great overview of what our city is doing now and what the forward-looking progress. We did that with the water recycling, the Valley Water Purified Water Project discussion. We selected a liaison for the Mid-Penn Regional Open Space Hawthorne's area planning process, and then gave some input on the Baylands nature interpretive signs. Our commission also wrote some letters and memos to the council. And we talked about the Junior Museum and Zoo ticket price and the NV cap with the parkland. And then I put under community highlights, and this is something more that were ongoing projects, and certainly staff had a lot to do with it, but things that did touch our commission in years past were the completion of the Highway 101 pedestrian bridge, the opening of the Junior Museum and Zoo, which is beautiful, and also Rinconada Park, which is almost completed. We spent a lot of time at our retreat last year, and then in one of our meetings on the work plan. And I really feel that the work plan is extremely important. It also, I thought, helped guide what we tried to do with our agenda, with our meetings. And I think it really, in looking back at what our work plans were and then what we ended up meeting on, it was very much in alignment. And we will be using these this 2021 work plan to inform our 2022 work plan. So I'll give some high level accomplishments, and then we will probably dive a little bit more into the weeds as we discuss the 2022 work plan. So the Baylands Tidegate project, we made a recommendation on July 27th, and City Council approved on February 7th. So that was very successful, and that is a completed work plan and a completed ad hoc, which we're very excited about. With fund development, we had the Palo Alto Recreation Foundation and Friends of Parks. They presented to us. The ad hoc met a few times to discuss fundraising opportunities and to figure out how best to come up with sponsorship guidelines. And so that is something that we will revisit for our 2022 work plan and see where that falls into how we move forward. Our CIP review, we had that discussion on December 14th. Our racket court policy is something that, again, we will revisit for 2022, but we did make a recommendation with the new pickleball court rules on October 26th, and council is set to review that on March 7th. But that seems the court usage policy is always something that is very important and seems to be a project that we're continually looking into. Foothill Nature's Preserve, which has been something that our commission has spent a great amount of time on the last few years. And it's been very exciting to see a lot of those ideas and a lot of those meetings come to fruition. We did make a recommendation. One thing to keep in mind, there were things done earlier in 2021 in January and February, which I'm not covering, as I'm only covering things that occurred from our last retreat until now. So there were other items with Foothills Nature Preserve that occurred earlier in 2021, but we did make another recommendation on March 23rd, as well as December 14th. And then we also recommended with the open space and parks photography and film policy, which encompasses both Foothills Nature Preserve and our other open spaces and parks on December 14th. New recreation opportunities was very busy. We did have a youth leadership update, and it's always wonderful to have the youth present. And I think sometimes as we go through things and we have other presenters or we have other people, sometimes we forget the voice of our youth. And I think it's exciting to have them present. And they have wonderful ideas. And that shows with a young man who called into the commission, maybe it's a year and a half or 2 years ago now. And that's what prompted us to get moving on a skate park. And so I think to continue to listen to our youth and to tap into their ideas, because they're the ones on the ground. They're the ones that are there. And the one thing that I think youth can do for us is they can be a motivating factor, because their time goes so fast. And if it takes us 5 years to complete a project, all of a sudden that great idea that young man had at age 14 or 15, he'll never see that, or she will never see that. So I think for us to keep that in mind as we try to push through projects and as we look at priorities is extremely important. Our work with First Tee continued, and we gave a recommendation on a public-private partnership, and also recommended our vision for a new Palo Alto gym, which council will review on March 7th. So, these are items from the work plan that we will revisit later on in the meeting, but just wanted to give a high-level review. Let's see here. I also, and I don't know what the most appropriate way to distribute or look at this, but I did put all of our actions and detailed those, as well as all of our discussion items. And again, it was to look back on all the discussion items, especially I think is extremely informative, because the discussion items oftentimes are things that certainly for me provide a great education, both on what our city's thinking about and then just different policy ideas. And so I think those are great for our commission to help our commission become more informed and more well-rounded in our decision-making, and for us to set our priorities. So overall, I felt the last 11 months were really packed with a lot of great accomplishments. And again, I really want to compliment the chair and vice chair from our last, from 2021 into 2022, and certainly the work of staff. Without the work of staff, none of this happens. And we always need to keep them in mind as we come up with different projects and different ad hocs and different roles for what we are trying to accomplish. I'll turn it back to Chair Greenfield if he has other things to add to what has just been said, but I do appreciate everyone being here and really everyone's hard work for our Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Jeff, for the detailed presentation and for all the work that you did in compiling this backwards, or this look back at where we've been. It's very, very helpful. I think I want to share your thankful comments as well as thank former Chair Cribbs for leading us through the past year. I think it's been a very successful year where we did accomplish quite a bit amidst a very challenging environment. And one part of that challenge is meeting as we are today remotely. It's unfortunate that we're not able to have especially an event like an annual retreat in person But hopefully we can get there next year and be looking to be meeting in person before then. There are trade-offs and benefits, and have been some things have been easier meeting in this manner, but overall it'd be nice to have a little more human interaction. Also want to echo your thanks for staff, and I really can't say enough about how I value the working relationship that we have, that the commission shares with our staff liaison and all of the rest of the staff that we work with. It we are really lucky and fortunate to have a relationship and with this dedicated group of individuals that do just an awesome job, and make it easier for us to want to continue to participate and give in the same manner. More specifically, back in our effort in looking back at the past year, do any commission members have any comments on anything that we may have left out, or staff members as well, as we're creating a record of where we've been the past year? Does anybody have any comments? And also want to note that the presentation which Jeff has gone through will become part of the minutes for the meeting, and so it's something that will be shared with everyone afterwards, which is useful to be able to look back at the history, the details he's been sharing. So are there any comments? Darren, is there anything you'd like to add regarding the past year? You're on mute, excuse me.
Nothing, Chair, just appreciation for the commission's hard work, and really grateful for all that and the accomplishments we achieved together.
Okay. And
Chair, we do have a hand raised from Adam Howard.
start to look at, thank you, Adam, please. Welcome.
I just thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of also say what Darren said, just a thank you for all your ongoing support and help with some of these tough issues. Just being so involved, Commissioner Cribbs, for coming to some of those youth meetings. It's very much appreciated. The youth really appreciate it. And I certainly do appreciate all of you guys' support, especially with some of the tougher decisions or tougher conversations that need to take place. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. So appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate that, Adam. And does anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
I have my hand raised. I wanted to say thank you. Looks like a tremendous amount of work that's been done, and looking forward for more. But I think we kind of forgot to do the intros. And while I know a lot of people here, I don't know everybody. And I was just wondering if we need to do that.
Thank you for bringing that up. So maybe we could ask all the staff members to do a quick introduction.
Sure, I'll kick it off.
Nellis is nodding his head as well.
I'll kick it off and then pass on to other staff. I'm Darren Anderson. I'm the Assistant Director for Community Services Department and help serve as staff liaison to this wonderful commission. Kristen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen O'Kane. I'm the Director of Community Services, and I'm going to be here for part of the retreat today, but we'll have to sign off around noon for another meeting. But I will just piggyback too on what others were saying, is that this has always been such a great commission to work with. I've always enjoyed all of you, and the breadth of work that you do is really impressive, and we really appreciate it. Just the support and the hard work that all of you do is astounding. So thank you all so much, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Thanks, Kristen. And Lam? Lam may have, you're muted, sir.
Lam Do with Open Space Washington Golf Division, and supporting along with Darren's being a liaison and supporting the commission as well. And the same, sharing appreciation of the work that we collectively are able to do and accomplish, and so much of it would not be possible without the commission. Thank you.
Adam?
Hi, Adam Howard, Senior Community Services Manager with the Recreation Department, overseeing youth and teens. I've done fields and courts, and I'm at Mitchell Park Community Center. I've also been at Coverly, though. So I've been a little involved with a little bit of everything in my time with the city.
Thanks, Adam. Mega?
Hi, I'm Megha Bansal. I'm Senior Engineer in Public Works Engineering, and I manage the Parks and Bridges group within the Engineering Services Division.
Thanks for being here, Mega. And Peter?
Hi, Peter Jensen, a landscape architect for the city of Palo Alto, working with the Public Works Department and doing mostly park renovation projects and capital improvement projects for the city.
Thanks for being here, Peter, especially since it looks like you're in the field working on one of our important projects, probably Rinkin, not a park.
I am.
Is that all the staff?
And Councilmember Du Bois, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Tom Du Bois on the City Council. For the new members, again, the role of the council liaison, I'm not here to give my personal opinion. I'm here to mention if council has taken an official position on anything. I think sometimes our council liaisons participate a little bit more, but that's really not our role. So I'll primarily be listening. And again, I don't know that I can be here all day. I may come in and out a couple of times. But you guys can use me if you have questions or you want, feedback from the council. I can hope be a conduit there. So thanks.
Thank you. Very, very happy to have the former mayor here with us, and I appreciate your approach to take more of a listening role. But I will say, as we go through, particularly in the later part of the meeting, and start looking at our work plan and reviewing our work plan in more detail from last year and moving forward with this year's work plan, we are still going through some uncharted waters, and I think that this commission, as well as other commissions, are working through the process of what's the most appropriate way to develop work plans and report on work plans, and particularly given that you work directly in developing the handbook, which we're using as a basis for some of this. We'll be looking for any input and guidance you'd like to offer in that area. So you're on mute, Tom.
Yeah, it sounds good. Sorry.
Thanks. Okay. So we'll now move on to our next agenda item, which is our annual priorities for the commission for 2022, which in the past has been more of a calendar year priority, but now it's in this case, it's going to be a 15-month priority. We'll start with some framing of the priorities in terms of especially given we have some new members on the commission, just reviewing where our purpose and duties are defined, and also spending a little time reviewing some highlights from the handbook. Then we'll talk about alignment. We're not a body that's working on our own. We're appointed by the city council as an advisory group, and we're working directly with staff. And as we develop our priorities, we need to be in alignment with city council's priorities, which have just been established at their annual retreat, and also consider staff's priorities and their resources that are available for what's possible for us to address. So we'll go through the framing and the purpose and duties and the alignment. Then we'll talk about how to develop our priorities. And the next three action items there's going to be a lot of overlap between the three. They're very much directly interrelated, and I'm talking about establishing our priorities, establishing our ad hoc groups and liaisons, and assigning these roles for the coming year, and then moving on to our work plan. The interrelation is very intrinsic. As we talk about our priorities, we're going to take more of a bottom-up approach and look at the work that we want to do first to help that to help define what is most important to us. This is what we've done in the past, is going to focus on the projects we want to work on, and then use that to help inform and clarify what our priorities are. And as we do that, we'll be looking at our previous ad hocs and the previous work that the commission has done, and consider what work isn't yet completed. And then additionally we'll be able to refer directly back to our work plans, which work plans haven't been completed, to consider the reasons why they haven't been completed, and look to see what makes sense to continue in the coming year. And as we look at our successes and our shortcomings, we can use this to help inform and better define the focus of an ad hoc, which is a group that's specified to do work over a defined time period, and look to try to refine the focus so that we can achieve what we're aiming for in the specified time frame. Anybody have any questions or comments before we move on? I will note that we will have a 10-minute break at some point around the 2-hour mark of the meeting. This will be we'll use some flexibility in adjusting when this will happen, based on when we need the 10-minute break, and if we hit a wall of sorts. And I expect this will happen somewhere towards the end of defining our priorities for the year. And it might be the kind of thing where we're, in addition to grabbing a bite to eat, we can spend a little time to think about what our actual priorities will want to be. We will spend a lot of time reviewing, working on our ad hocs for next year within this action item before we go to actually define them in the following action item. And we'll be discussing the work plans as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. And then, just as we consider what our priorities are for the year, what are our priorities? There's specific areas that the commission wants to focus our effort. Again, considering the alignment with council priorities and working directly with staff on this in an advisory role to city council. And also want to consider our guiding lights, or the master plans, which kind of define our overarching goals. They're aspirational documents, and our priorities should be consistent with what's been defined in our master plan or has been otherwise specified to us, directed to us from city council. The Parks and Rec Commission purpose and duties is actually defined in the city municipal code, and I've listed out some bullet items of some of the key purposes and duties. I'm not going to read through all of these, but we are an advisory body. A lot of it's focused on planning and policy for goals and services and construction and renovation. The financial side of things is important, and this is an area that we can specifically help review with staff. Serving as a conduit to the community is really a key role for the commission. The staff and council's reach has a limit, and so we're kind of the next level that can work to be more in touch with what's important for the community, for community members to reach out to the commission members as a first point of contact, to be involved with community meetings on issues, projects specific to areas like park renovations or dog park considerations, things like that. And we can also be advised to look into matters, or I'm sorry, we can be requested to look into matters as directed specifically by council. And an example of this is the recent directive from council to serve as a community forum for the urban forestry division. And some of the highlights of that, and the agreement, which has been approved by the directors of public works and community services, has been forwarded to everyone and as posted as part of the agenda of this meeting, and we'll get this included as a link to the website when we review that. But some of the highlights are to help to as a part of a community forum, to look to implement programs within the urban forest master plan. A primary focus of this is preserving and growing the tree canopy within our community. And then also the community outreach side of it, in terms of fostering communication and collaboration, both with the community and back and forth to the staff within the urban forestry and community services departments. And this information will again be included in part of the minutes, and there's a link to the specific Muni Code section that's applicable to the Parks and Rec Commission. We also have the new handbook, which is defining general guidelines for the city boards and commissions and committees. Things like standards of conduct, duties, commitments, etc. And a couple areas that I highlighted within the handbook that are specifically applicable to what we're talking about today is the creation of the annual work plan and report. And so part of the work plan that we'll be working on is a report on what happened in the past year's work plan. The work plans are approved by council, and they serve as a direct feedback to progress forward with the primary items that we'll work on as a commission for the year or the period of the work plan. And we'll get into this in much more detail as we review and develop our work plans, but specific portions of the components of the work plan item are the goals, the benefits, why we're doing this, when we're expected to be, what period of time it'll take, and how we measure success. And then back and referring back to the report of the prior year's performance, that'll be something that we saying something in terms of the success and the status of the work. And also we've been asked to provide a measure of community involvement. Something else to just review is talking about ad hoc committees. It's important for us to understand that these are temporary committees. They're something that's specified, has a specified task, specified purpose, and the time frame for which to accomplish that, and it should be less than a year. One of the reasons, important reasons for this is that we want to make sure that our ad hoc committees are not standing committees, which would be subject to Brown Act constraints. We do want to maintain the flexibility to meet regularly with a small group and not be subject to the Brown Act. So it's a group of members, it's a minority group of the commission, 2 or 3 members, and may work directly with staff, or may work and also meet individually without staff. And these groups are created by an action of our commission, and the members are appointed either by the chair or the action. And the convention of this body is that the members are appointed by an action of the full group. Darren, do you have anything you'd like to add regarding any of this, or Tom or anyone else? Any questions or comments? Any questions from the new commission members?
The only thing from a staff perspective I'll share, Chair, is the value of the ad hocs. They're just instrumental in getting the work prepared for the commission review and doing the thinking and research and really assisting staff as a team to work through those issues in great detail. And I think they're a great benefit to the community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Since I have only been on this commission for a very short time, what I'm saying may not fit right into this, but it's something that I'm looking for a place where the parks master plan may not be the highest priority for the city, but there are things there that we would still think are high priority. Can we still work on those? If there is some program or or policies and programs of the parks master plan, but the bucket that those fall into are not in this year's city priorities, which is pretty wide, so we can probably find room for those things in there. But still, can we look at the parks master plan and say, oh, this is important to us, and it's not really an easy fit into a city priority for the year?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes. If in the respect that if the commission feels strongly that there's something that should be a priority for this group and by virtue of this group for the city on some level, and it isn't directly addressed in the council priorities and in the staff priorities, it's something that we can talk about, and if we get the feeling from staff that this is something that could be supportive and is a reasonable idea, we could include it in our work plan as a recommendation to council that this is something that they give us a green light to move forward with. And I'm happy to hear comments from staff and Councilmember Du Bois regarding the question.
Yeah, this is Darren, and I agree with that sentiment, Chair, that I think everything in the Parks Master Plan is fair game for including in something we do, and we could have a work plan item specifically dedicated to implementing elements of the Parks Master Plan. That said, there's just the constant balancing act of limited resources for all the things we want to achieve. And different things become and rise in priority throughout the year. There might be a Parks Master Plan element that becomes a really high priority for one reason or another and jumps to the top. But I think as long as we're counting in the prioritization process with all the things we want to achieve, that's certainly on the list, is the Parks Master Plan.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll maybe tag on to that is, looking at the master plan and also looking at some of the different priorities that are being set, and kind of making an assumption that a lot of these things are come as a result of what is in the master plan, but also might be aligned with what the city council is coming up with. And as we know, we're in a kind of a fast moving world that changes as a result of what's happening with the pandemic and how that affects resources and so forth. I would assume that there's some way in which that there's an addendum that maybe was not part of the master plan or initiated from the council. Is that some way? Is there a vehicle that sort of adds to the master plan and then becomes sort of a priority, or gets associated with some liaison and that type of thing?
Darren, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think that's an outstanding question. And certainly, I know there's some component of the master plan that talks about updating it. Because of course, it has to be a living document that is refreshed and reanalyzed. The timeframes might be spelled in there. Forgive me, I can't recall. Like, is it a 5-year incremental cycle? We haven't done it yet, but I think that's a good point. Perhaps it's two things. One, we set the cycle and set the plan for when it gets a refresh or an addendum, as you note. And then secondly, we keep an ongoing list of priorities that we want to add and re-examine.
I think it's 5 years, and it was done in 2017. So maybe it's time to start thinking about it. I also think that, with just like Nellie said, there are a lot of things we might want to re-examine at some point or bring to the community to re-examine. And I don't know if this is the time for this, but we have certain goals, and under each goal in the master plan, there are policies and programs. And there's no clear equity among those goals. Like, how much have we done in the past 4 years or since 2017 on goal number 1, 2, 3, 4? And maybe some of them got a lot of work and others didn't any, or, and I don't know, because I don't see, like, maybe that's something that, and I don't know how much work it is, if it's worth doing, but it would be interesting to me.
No, I think these are all good ideas, and that related to what is appropriate for the 5-year review. I think we need to consider what resources are available, and if this is something that we should start undertaking this year. I think we should at least be, as Darren says, working to create a list of things to be considering to get included into our living document, and also be more interested in learning specifically what the process is to get updates into the master plan. And when we're talking about a 5-year review, what does that really include? What is encompassed with it, and how deep a review is that? And I think these are questions that we're not going to get answered for at this meeting, but it's something to revisit. Okay. We'll move on, and just it's a nice segue to just review some of the highlights that I have regarding the master plan and alignment, which I talk about as a alignment with our roadmaps and our aspirational documents. The master plans we have include the city's overall master plan. What we refer to as the Park and Recs master plan is the Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation master plan. The Urban Forestry master plan also, and the SCAP, the Sustainability Climate Action Plan, and the GSI, the Green Stormwater Infrastructure plans are all applicable to us as well. And so those are listed out. I just took a moment to review what the principles are that are defined in our parks master plan. And I think it's helpful for us to just read. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to read through some of the master plan, but the important takeaways that kind of should keep in our mind as we consider our priorities are playful, healthy, sustainable, inclusive, accessible, flexible, balanced, and nature. These are the priorities, or these are the principles that our master plan is based on. And anything we talk about as a priority for our commission should be consistent with many and most of these principles. And then more specific goals that are called out, which again is at a high level for the master plan, is to provide high quality facilities and services for our community, for everyone in our community, enhancing what we have, both in the breadth and the quality and the variety of use within our parks and rec and open space facilities and services. Again, that's all of what we cover as a commission, considering and what's addressed in the parks, trails, open space, and recreation master plan. Creating the environments that include regular and active and passive activities to support health, wellness, and social connections. This is very, very much in line with the city council annual priority, which we'll get to in just a moment, but in terms of prioritizing community health. Preserve and integrate nature, natural systems, and ecological principles throughout the city. This is very much very consistent with another council priority, which is regarding sustainability. And then develop innovative programs, services, and strategies. If there's ever been a time to be innovative in programs, it's been over the last couple of years as we faced challenges like we've never faced before, and really have to rethink what we're doing in many different areas. We're talking about this in our meeting last month, considering as we were reviewing the annual swimming report and how swimming programs have changed, and what can we do to increase our reach. And then finally, managing Palo Alto's land and services effectively and efficiently. Again, all this information will be shared with everyone in the minutes after the meeting. Is there any comments or questions anyone has? Or Shani, were you trying to speak?
No, it's the cat has something to say.
The cat had something to say. Cat got your tongue. Okay.
Was typing on my keyboard.
All right, and so here are the city council priorities for this year. There's 4 top level priorities: economic recovery and transition, with a subtext of cohesive vision for our commercial cores, climate change protection and adaptation, housing for social and economic balance, and community safety and health, with a subtext of crime, mental health, air quality, noise, and sense of belonging. As we look at these priorities, it's quite clear there's 2 specific priorities that speak directly to the work we do as a commission with staff. The second and fourth ones, climate change and community safety and health. And we'll spend a little bit more time trying to dig down on this. But as we consider our priorities for the year, it's important that we try to find alignment with these priorities. Tom, are you with us right now? Is there anything you'd like to add to say regarding council priorities?
I am here. I think you covered it. I think really there was a lot of discussion in the community safe and health about really a wide range of topics. But I think, that's an area where the Parks and Rec work plan could really contribute, and obviously the climate change. There's a discussion about the tree ordinance, about potentially dedicating more park space, air quality, like you mentioned, and a lot of people spoke about noise, particularly airplane noise. So, thanks.
Thank you. And would you say that with the priority of community safety and health, specific items were listed as priorities, and a lot of this is based on community input on specific issues, but I look at this as being a pretty broad umbrella that even if they're not one of the specific items that were called out below that still apply to safety and health, it's something that the commission should consider as a priority. Is that a reasonable interpretation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I had a little bit of a personal issue. It was very broad. Certainly, there was a lot of talk about crime, under the community safety piece and just funding public safety positions, that kind of thing. But then, and then a lot of these other things kind of got added in.
Yeah. No, and that the broadness and specificity is something we've struggled with as a commission as well when we develop our priorities. They don't end up being, it's hard to end up with 2-word priorities and really communicate what it is we're trying to.
Yeah, and again, these are just 3 areas of focus for the council. I think obviously the city's work plan is much broader, and your work plan doesn't have to align with this 100%. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, and that, which is part of answering the question that Shani had as well. Okay, the next thing we'll talk about is staff priorities. It's important for us to align our priorities, not just with council priorities, but also with staffs, and staff's priorities also become somewhat less aspirational and more of a reality check that defines what is possible with the resources we have. So I'll turn it over to Darren to review the coming year's staff priorities.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the items we've got listed here are really above and beyond our day-to-day activities, which are significant too, maintaining the parks and open space preserves, offering recreational programs and staffing facilities like community centers and the like. Some of these priorities include capital improvement projects. We've got some that are long-standing that we really need to finish up. Examples, the Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan started before the pandemic and really derailed by a number of issues, including focusing on higher priorities, but we want to get that one completed. I'm hoping to get that done soon. We're shooting for coming in March to the commission, and then April again to wrap that one up if possible. But we've got improvement projects that we're working on too. Bulware Park Improvement Project is going to be coming soon, and that's dealing with improvements to the park expansion for the land that was purchased in 2020 and dedicated parkland, renovating the playgrounds, pathways, and amenities. There'll be a new restroom and a new dog park associated with that project, which is really exciting. This is a project, as with these others on the list, that the commission had already taken action on in terms of recommending a park improvement ordinance, and those park improvement ordinances already been approved by council. So now we're at that stage of implementing these and building them out. Ramos Park Improvement Project with a new playground, pathways, and a restroom. Cameron Park Improvement Project with a new playground replacement. Coverly Field restrooms, long-standing project we're looking forward to make progress on. And then the Magical Bridge Playground Improvement, which is replacing the existing surfacing, which is aged out, and adding a shade element. Some other park priority projects include the skate park. We've been working on it, and we need to give it a push with some extra staff attention to get to the next step, which is another community meeting. We've been working with a stakeholder group and then come to the Parks and Rec Commission for a recommendation and then bring it to council. The Foothills Nature Preserve. This is implementing weekday fees, something we've only been charging for holidays and weekends thus far, and we've got just a little more work to do to prepare ourselves to implement those weekday fees. We've been working with the ad hoc on that for some time. A new endeavor is to develop an e-bike, electric bike policy for parks and open space. What we have in our open space parks and regulations are really outdated, and we need to take a fresh look at that. It's an emerging and growing activity, electric bikes. So we want to give that attention. The First Tee Driving Range and Youth Area Improvement Project. This was presented to the commission. We've got a recommendation from the commission. Now it's in staff's lap to move this forward, bring it to council as a discussion item, which will be coming soon. And it's helpful in some of these to give context. That one is pretty heavy in terms of staff involvement and guiding that through and managing that. So as that moves forward, that's a kind of project that will take quite a bit of staff resources and dominate a lot of time. Some recreation focused priorities include continuing to offer diverse programs to meet and enhance needs of our community. In aquatics, we need to be hiring new swim lesson teachers and expanding our lessons and group swim hours this spring and summer, and continue our work on the racket court policy. We recently updated the pickleball rules, but we've got a lot more work to do that Adam Howard and our ad hoc committee have been working on and will continue to do so. That'll be coming to the commission soon. And vacant positions that we're working on filling. We recently filled our supervising park ranger at Foothills. That had been vacant for 2 years. And as soon as we filled that, one of our park rangers moved on to another position, another job. So we've got to fill that one. Coordinator of recreational program. That was this position will help facilitate and support this commission, amongst other things, like the community garden program. So we're looking forward to filling it. We've got 2 vacant park maintenance positions that we need to fill hopefully soon. A program assistant 1, a program assistant 2, a full-time custodian, and a facility attendant. All this to say, we've got a number of vacancies that all the work that those positions are due is right now being spread out with existing staff, which just spreads us a little thinner and makes it a little more challenging to address these priority projects that we spoke about just a minute ago. I think, Chair, that is covers it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Darren or anything to add? Both staff or commission members?
About electric bikes policy. It came to Mid-Penn on Wednesday, and they decided not to allow for now all because of the high pitch and noise in the spectrum that we don't hear, but it really causes wildlife to disappear from an area where those e-bikes are used. So I guess I'm asking where this comes from. I mean, maybe the idea is just don't have bikes in open space areas and electronic bikes. I mean, in the city parks, maybe some of them is okay. And is that what you're trying to do? To figure out how to regulate it?
Yeah, so right now what we have is outdated language in our parks and open space regulation that prohibits motorized bicycles from parks and open space unless it's handicap related. And the California Vehicle Code has new language, and our regulation needs to be updated, but we haven't looked at the issues and policy ever. And so I think we want to take a fresh look at it. I've been in touch with Mid-Penn staff who's worked on that recent policy review, and I think we can learn a lot from what the homework they've done, the research they've done, and their conclusions they've drawn. But my recommendation is that we eventually, hopefully at this meeting or the subsequent one, form an ad hoc committee that helps work through this policy and create our own, as well as updating our regulation.
You know that their board of directors did not accept staff recommendations for now because they thought that they were too liberal. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so that's one question I had. It looks like tremendous amount of work, even without anything added to this. So I think it's going to be difficult for us to find additional stuff that we would ask you to do, although a lot of it is important. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very reasonable and important observation, and that staff has a list of priorities they're looking to work on, and particularly given the discussion of the vacant positions, that kind of highlights how staff resources are limited right now, and more limited than usual. And if things go well, they may be less limited moving forward, but we got to get there first. And further to the e-bike discussion, it's a policy area in terms of the usage in parks and open spaces that's never been specifically addressed. And I think it is something that makes sense to me as a commission to consider it. It's not going to be an easy project, and it's it's probably not a one-year project. So if we look at it, we have to look at it in terms of what kind of scoping can be done in the first year to maybe better define what we're aiming for.
Yeah, sorry, just to tag in on the e-bike. This is a great report, and it's nice to see a lot of things happening. You've got some pretty good challenges here, especially on the filling the vacant positions and competing with probably some of the other cities and trying to recruit some of the same type of people. On e-bikes, I think the fact that it appears that we were trying to be proactive and stay ahead of something that is an environment similar to pickleball and some of the other stuff that is starting to get a lot of growth and momentum. So it's nice to know that we're kind of in front of that, but it is an environment where e-bikes are starting to become kind of the norm. So that's a great effort.
And I'm also seeing the size and speed of e-bikes increasing, or you start getting some more of the monster bikes with big tires and going faster in terms of. So what is defined? There seems to be different. There's obviously different ranges of e-bikes and different uses, and those are probably some nuances that we need to consider in developing policy. And I want to welcome Commissioner Brown, who's now been able to join us. Thank you. Welcome, Mandy.
Hi, so sorry.
Understood. And so we were just reviewing staff priorities, which you can see in the shared screen. We're doing this as far as framing to consider what our priorities will be for the next year, and reviewing prior to that the function and the role of the commission. Does anyone have anything to add on this?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
I wanted to ask Darren about the filling vacant positions. Is there a timeline, Darren? And also, have you all had resignations as well in this recent resignation COVID era?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cribbs, for that question. The timeline's a tricky one. I should have also mentioned these vacant positions are for community services in the areas that predominantly fall into the Park and Rec category. However, it's across the board throughout the city in different departments, many of which we're relying upon, including to fill these positions. So as human resources is understaffed and struggling, it expands what the typical time filling of a position would take. In the past, maybe it was 3 months to 4 months. Now it's closer to 6. We were given the opportunity to prioritize certain positions, but those get counterbalanced with the entire city. So it's difficult for me to give an accurate one, but in the ballpark of 4 to 6 months is probably realistic in terms of how long it takes to bring someone on. And forgive me, Commissioner Cribbs, you had another question?
I was interested if there had been resignations within community services over the last 6 months or during.
Yes, we have had some resignations as well as others leaving for jobs elsewhere.
Thank you.
Darren, in the Ramos Park Improvement Project, it shows playgrounds, pathways, and restroom. I thought there was a component of a native plant garden, butterfly garden.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Kleinhaus. There's some native vegetation added to that project as well.
Can you add that to this item? So it doesn't only say playgrounds, pathways, and restrooms, but it says also native plant. Native plant garden, or I think it was a butterfly garden or something. I don't remember. Native planting.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else? And I, as I ask if anyone else had anything to say, I'm glad that this has become an interactive session, and I didn't really preface that at the beginning, but Definitely everything we're talking about is meant to be collaborative, as is a primary focus of how the commission operates. We try to keep things as a flat organization where everyone, as a flat commission where everyone has a voice. Okay, then moving on, just a couple of things to highlight that I'm not going to spend much time on, and we've kind of touched on them already. But as we consider our priorities, we want to keep in mind what I like to refer to as the three pillars of the commission, of our scope, which is open space, parks, and recreation. So as we consider our priorities, we consider which priorities fit into each of these areas, and then also considering the alignment of these three pillars with the council priorities in terms of open space, parks, and recreation, fitting in with the council priorities, which we previously touched on, focusing specifically on the climate change protection and adaptation, and community safety and health. And as we consider the prioritization for what we're going to select as our focus for the year, it's pretty straightforward and clear that we have resource limitations. Normally, when people consider resource limitations, financial resources are the first thing that comes to mind, and how a project gets funded. And certainly, as we look into our aspirational master plan, there are lots of projects and great ideas in here that have been lacking funding in the past. But I feel like our more immediate constraint right now is staff resources, and we need to be careful. We're always careful in that we want to make sure the commission is contributing and making things easier for staff on a net basis. Staff needs to put in some time to work with us, but we want to. Our goal is to be a net positive, so that staff's getting more out than that they're putting in based on the recommendations that we're offering and the areas that we're looking to make improvements in terms of policies and projects. As I mentioned before, I think as we consider our priorities for over the past year, and our new priorities, I think it's helpful to look at the work we've done in detail. I guess it would be good to show real quickly look at the priorities. Look at the priorities that we have for the past year, and I'll put up a quick slide on that. Just a second. Darren, do you have the slide with the priority slide?
Yes.
Using to edit. You want to share that?
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's a little, not seeing the bottom part so well.
Do you want to start with 2021 and all? Sure.
We just real quickly, you can see where we're with 2021. And so our priorities last year were to maximize rec opportunities with available resources, equity, access, and inclusion for programs, parks, and open space, foothills nature, preserve stewardship, and environmental sustainability and climate change. And you can see the city council priorities are listed here as well. So the end goal of this action is to fill in the dots there, and to add our new priorities for the coming year. I guess if we look back at the past priorities, I think there's generally a recommendation that something shouldn't continue as a priority for more than 3 years. Is that guidance accurate, Councilmember Du Bois?
Yeah, I think so.
So we can, I think it'd be helpful. Now we can kind of switch back and we can look at the commission's ad hocs and use that to review which projects are going to be our priorities for the coming year. So I'm going to try a little bit of a split screen share. Excuse me. Let's see how this works. So for the time being, I've left the staff priorities on the screen, and also looking at what our ad hocs were last year. Can everyone see this okay? Is the print big enough? The font size?
Be nice to have a little bigger.
Of which one? Of everything?
The committees, the ad hocs.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to eventually cover up the staff priorities and make this bigger. So this is where we were last year. Spent some time along with the vice chair and staff and input from others to look at and consider what we might want to a starting point for our ad hocs for next year. The Baylands, the items with a line through them are ad hocs that have been disbanded because they've completed their work. The Baylands tie gate is one. The sidewalk vendor policy is the other. Looking at where things are the feeling was that we didn't need to have a ad hoc for Foothills Nature Preserve in the coming year, that moving that to a liaison role would probably make more sense, given that the major work has been done in terms of recommendation that's gone to the council. So the current thinking is that we would not have a Foothills ad hoc for the coming year. Looking to better define specific ad hoc focus for the 15-month period. CIP review is something that's done on a short basis every year, and it's over a shorter period of time. Also put together some information trying to project what period of time something would be addressed. That's not going to help you. Hang on. Can people read this okay? Yep. So this is just a rough idea of what we could do with ad hocs. We added in an e-bike policy ad hoc to consider. And this would be something to review and recommend a scope for the e-bike usage in parks and open spaces we touched on. Also thought it would be appropriate to include an ad hoc to make a recommendation regarding potentially rededicating the Bixby Park 10 acres that were part of the Measure E initiative that undedicated that area for potentially putting an anaerobic digester in. That didn't happen, so it's something to consider. And then just listing a website refresh as an ad hoc. This wouldn't be something that would become part of the work plan, but would be something for 2 to 3 people to be working on. So I'm interested in hearing comments from the commission members in terms of this starting point for proposing for ad hocs for the coming year, considering things that may or may not be appropriate, other ideas, changing names of ad hocs, anything. What you like, what you don't like.
Is now the time to add to this all sorts of things that we think would fit in?
Yes, now's the time to talk about priorities the commission members have, and maybe we can start with Commissioner Brown, since we haven't heard from her today.
Yes, so just one idea is that the website refresh would maybe, because the funding opportunities does have communications under there, I just would make sure that there's some thought in to consolidate, because it's essentially 2 people working on communications or 2 groups. And maybe we could streamline that, or maybe it falls under, I don't know that it falls underneath funding opportunities, but maybe there's another way to sort of not have any sort of duplication. I just worry that it would, there would be 2 people doing parts of the same thing.
Sure, I think the website refreshes at a higher level, kind of taking a look at the website as a whole, looking at other commission websites within the city and potentially other cities, but we want to stay within the framework of what we have. Look at what's old and obsolete and doesn't belong there. Look at what we want to add, and I think the funding opportunities is an important area that we'll want to have included in the website update, and so but it's just consider a fairly small subset, and there's some overlap, so it's a good point to consider if it's something that should be part of funding ops or a separate entity. Other comments? Anne, did you want to say something? Or, let me give everybody a moment to review. If someone just wants to say something, go ahead. I need to go grab my water bottle, which I left in another room.
I was just going to say that I'm glad that we are continuing, hopefully, to have the funding opportunities, because I continue to have great faith in our community that if there is a need that is in evidence, that we can find the way to do that, even in this time of lack of city budget and staff resources. So I think that's a really important ad hoc to continue. I'm very much aware of the fact that we don't want the ad hocs to go on forever. And so maybe defining the role a little tighter might be good. And I'm also very happy to see recreation projects continuing along with the racket court policy. I would certainly recommend that continue as well. So I like those 3. And on the park amenities, I feel like we've made a lot of progress with that. And so it might be good just to have a scorecard there about with timelines and that kind of thing. Maybe the ad hoc could work on that. But I like those 4. Actually, I like all 5 of them, Jeff. So you're not going to get a lot of other comments from me, I don't think.
I guess one question would be regarding park amenities. Do we need an ad hoc for that, or would a liaison role be sufficient?
I'm sort of feeling, I think that's a good question for the staff, but I'm sort of feeling right now that a lot of that is in progress and is funded. And if there were timelines and a scorecard, so we could just applaud the fact that we're making progress on those renovations, that maybe could move that to a liaison role. But I'd ask Darren about that.
Darren?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've got some near-term achievements coming for the dog park one. For example, we'll have Bullware be adding a new one, which is great, because as the commission knows, we don't do that very often. To advance other dog park related things like our off leash program that we had talked about for a while that hasn't made much headway. An ad hoc probably would be helpful for something like that. We could revisit that next year too, maybe if we think it's not going to happen on this go around. That would be reasonable too. The restrooms, I think, are dialed in fairly well. We've got 4 on the agenda, and I don't think an ad hoc is necessary to help with that. And other sort of park amenities like benches or, that kind of thing. I also think a liaison rule would be fine. So I'm open either way. And I think that's the information I could help share.
Darren, can I ask, what would you think about, and Jeff, about a liaison role for the dog park specifically, so that the dog community is, has a contact specifically, especially since we're going to do the one dog park at Bulware, and I guess that there's a little bit of funding for some renovation with others, but I don't see us redoing dog parks right away in the near future that you need an ad hoc for.
Thanks, Ann. I was kind of thinking the same thing as we're considering moving this to liaison. So we have a dog park specific one, and then would there be a restroom one, or would that be park amenities? It would be restrooms and benches. And I do want to hear from the other commissioners that have their hands up as well. Nellis?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Shawnee had her hand up first, so I can go after her.
Okay.
Thank you. So going back to the goals of the PMP, we had preserve and integrate nature, natural system, and ecological principles throughout Palo Alto. And I think one way to do that would be looking at green streets and the urban forest together. And I think it falls well within what we were asked to do, and the city council sustainability and health goals. So I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it, and I can use some help, but bringing nature to the city is something that we can do along creeks. We can do it through the trees. We can plant native trees in parks. There's a lot of different things that could be looked at for the opportunities. And there's a lot of other groups that this would have to work with, like the people that are working on bicycle connectivity and all of that. So there is a lot of connectivity issues here that could be looked at comprehensively. And I'm very interested in that. There is a lot of work being done in other cities in connection with that right now. So there's a lot of other places to learn, and it's a pretty hot topic. Another one that I would like to see here is the staff priority complete Baylands comprehensive conservation plan. I think that's really important. It's been sitting on the back burner. And one other thing, which is under park dedication, I see to look at the 10 acres, but I think that there was a city priority. One of the programs, I can probably dig it up, was to look at all the other types of park-like land that the city owns and see which ones can be dedicated as parkland. So I think that policy, if we're going to look at park dedication, that might be good to expand that to the other properties that are in city ownership that could be dedicated.
Thanks, Shani. We have had a park dedication ad hoc in the past that has reviewed opportunities as you suggest, and that's in part why I suggested calling this the park dedication ad hoc rather than limiting it specifically to Bixby Park. I think the 10 acres. I think the focus could be the 10 acres and consider other opportunities within the city. And on the BCCP, that is something that it is on staff's plan, and we have that set out as a liaison role.
Oh,
Nellis?
okay, so I think I'm not sure exactly what liaison versus ad hoc is at this point.
So,
Can you please explain?
yeah, sure, that's a good question. And so a liaison, an ad hoc is something, the way we've defined our ad hocs is it kind of at a parallel. An ad hoc is a committee that's going to work on something that's part of our work plan that's submitted to the city council for approval. It's something that has a specified time frame, and it's a specific goal and focus. And it's not something that's going to be there year after year. It's not a basket to catch what falls into a certain area. Like if we had a Foothills Park ad hoc that just any issues that came up regarding Foothills, they would go into it. That becomes more of a standing committee. And so the liaison roles are typically a single person. Let me go ahead and just share what we have on liaisons. So here's the liaison roles we've had for the past year. Most of them are a single member. It's someone who liaises with a certain group of stakeholders in the city, or in the case of the PAUSD city liaison, that's someone who would attend the monthly meetings with city council members and school board members. The Ventura Plan liaison was someone who would sit in on the meetings for their area plan and report back to the commission. So liaison can have a variety of different roles. A dog park liaison would be a conduit to the dog park community. As the field users liaison, I've worked with stakeholders, the soccer clubs and baseball organizations in terms of issues they have with fields. In a lot of cases, we're trying to also kind of be a point person that relieves some of the burden on staff in terms of community outreach, and also with respect to something like BCCP, as we put it down in the note here, just be someone who would be kind of the point person that helps this project across the finish line, and someone that staff can work with. Sometimes it's helpful for staff to speak with a commission member before bringing a item to the commission to just get a first pass of questions and refocus things. And Darren, if you want to add to this, please do.
Thanks, Chair. I think you covered it well.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Shawnee?
Yeah, but then I have to change what I said before, but maybe.
And so as you talk about the idea of bringing nature to city, as you said, we need to clarify what that means. And but that might be something that could be a project that could become a liaison to work with staff to develop some ideas to bring to the commission to consider, and then potentially create an ad hoc and a work plan item based on what on some initial review of things.
Okay, and it's not just flat native trees in parks, it's really looking at a lot of other stuff, so yeah. Okay, so the BCCP doesn't need to be there, right? Because it's gonna be
Yes.
more liaison role.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the recommendation. Nellis, comments?
Yeah, I was gonna, looking at the e-bike policy. Does that also incorporate, like, there's also a growth in electric scooters, and I assume that those are also right now part of, they are able to ride those in the park. So with that, and those things are not, the electric ones are probably pretty fast as well. So would it make sense to kind of maybe change the title on this to cover the types of electric items, equipment that could be in the park, whether it be an electric bike or an electric scooter?
So our focus is definitely parks and open space areas as opposed to
Right.
streets and sidewalks, which is out of our purview and part of the Department of Transportation. Darren, do you have thoughts on how policy considerations would apply to electric scooters?
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think that should be added, and maybe it could be e-bikes and other motorized something. We could wordsmith it, but actually in our existing ordinance regulation that I referenced, where it's outdated, but it calls out electric motorized bikes. It also mentions scooters. So I think we would look comprehensively at that ordinance, which is a little broader than just bikes.
And we can't, probably the single wheel Segway devices would apply there as well.
Yes, also in that same regulation that I mentioned.
And the recreation project, another area, as we know, that continues to that's continuing to grow nationwide, and that is pickleballs. So I mean, I know we have, you know, pickleball in one location, but there's might be a need to kind of cover some of the other communities. And would that fall under, could we add that as a recreational project, as one of the recreational project, or is that something that would fall somewhere else?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Someone else does, they can chime in with an answer.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at both the racket court policy and also recreation projects. So I'm thinking, I would, if a need comes, it started to get a lot of I guess comments from the public on adding additional pickleball facilities, or adding additional pickleball courts in some of the other parks. Would that fall under?
Okay, sure. So I think that one thing we can look at is the projected duration column here. I think that the racket court policy ad hoc is policy focused, and it's something that we're looking to wrap up in the first half of this year. And the same thing for funding opportunities. We're looking for a pretty narrow focus to really finish and complete and get some of these funding opportunity ideas posted on the website and disseminated into the public. The recreation projects is a broader ad hoc that's working to. We need to talk about how to define how to refine its definition, but something like additional new courts would certainly apply. And that I think I agree that would be something appropriate for this ad hoc to include in their purview or in their focus, but that would be separate from the policy. So I think having two separate ad hocs is appropriate. But I'm always open and interested in others' opinions. So are we leaning towards removing, to not having a park amenities ad hoc? Excuse me, Councilmember Du Bois.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but
Yeah, no, I was going to ask for your input in a moment.
I would just suggest maybe, I guess you kind of have it in there, but yeah, making the park dedication more broad. I think Bixby Park's important, but you know, other opportunities is also important. Yeah, sorry.
No, thank you. And anything else regarding the direction we seem to be wandering down here?
No, it all seems eminently logical.
Thank you.
Can I ask about one other emerging issue? I don't know if we'll have to deal with it soon or not, but I did mention lighting in other discussions. And lighting is emerging as a really potent pollutant that is impacting ecosystems and human health. In teens, outdoor lighting has been connected to mental health issues, anxiety, other things. I'm not sure there's something we can do about it, but because it's not necessarily only in parks, but we're seeing more and more interest in more lighting on trails and to allow people extended use, but that extended use is also causing a lot of harm. There were discussions in Palo Alto in the past, I think. But they kind of died off. And I don't know if this commission has any jurisdiction or interest in, or just be aware if something comes up that we should probably look at it. And I don't know how other people feel about it. And I'm not even sure that this should be an ad hoc, but I'm just raising it as an issue.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's some way to combine the two items you brought up in terms of the big nature of the city and the outdoor lighting. It's almost sort of like a naturalist consultant role or just kind of an overview of focusing on prioritizing ensuring that impacts to the natural environment are properly considered, and also growing the natural environment and extending its reach. And I don't know if there's some sort of a liaison role that could be developed to work with staff. Maybe it's becomes part, maybe it's related to the sustainability liaison role, which is a little bit ambiguous in its definition as well. I'm just throwing out ideas for people to consider and see what might make sense.
I think putting it as part of bringing nature to the city would be a good way to do it.
Getting back to the court, does anyone have any specific? Yeah.
I do think that a lot of this falls under the sustainability liaison role, and especially with the SCAP going on right now, there are a lot of policy changes and opportunity for community engagement and conversations around these. I think the ad hoc role should really be reserved for specific projects that arise from the liaison role that have a set time frame and objectives and require the input of other committee members on that ad hoc versus a smaller project that can be done just by the liaison and staff. I think, for example, the sensors at Rinconada Pool right now, that's sort of an example of something that Ann and staff handle. It doesn't need to be a full ad hoc committee, but some of these projects need a little bit more specifics and identification of resources required and a timeline before I think they can rise to an ad hoc committee level.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. I think we don't have enough at this point to define a specific role for an ad hoc. I appreciate that it's a passion area of interest for you, and I think it's absolutely fits in with the scope of the commission. But I think looking at this as a liaison role initially, as I mentioned, to try to work with staff and potentially develop something that could become an ad hoc is appropriate. And so I'm gonna, if it's, unless others object, I'm gonna move this down to the liaison list, and we can consider later if this is part of the sustainability liaison or a separate role.
Oh, so let me ask you, how, since the sustainability, the SCAP is focused primarily on electrification, and this is, while it's somewhere at the bottom of their priority list, it never floats beyond the bottom of their priority list. How does, and this is a one of the primary goals. And there are a lot of, in the park master plan, and there are a lot of policies and programs that are associated with it that have not yet been addressed. Putting that as a liaison to a sustainability that doesn't actually address it is basically saying, yeah, this is not going to happen.
So that's a good question. I appreciate it. The sustainability liaison we've had in the past has really been someone who's liaised with staff. In the past, we've had a number of presentations, regular presentations and updates on GSI, on urban forestry, on the SCAP plan itself, on sea level rise. This liaison role we can kind of define it to be whatever we want. As you point out, that the overall SCAP focus is electrification heavy, and that doesn't really fit so much with what we're doing. But that doesn't mean that our sustainability liaison couldn't be more focused on the natural elements that we're talking about. Does that make sense?
I don't know, because I have not seen how this liaison influences what the other groups that they're working with, other than bringing back what they're working on to this commission.
Sure.
So,
Darren, do you have any guidance you'd like to offer related to this discussion?
Forgive me, Chair, I had to step away just for a second, but on the topic of sustainability and how to be inclusive of things like bringing nature to the city and addressing lights.
Right. Is that something that you think that would fit under a sustainability liaison? How do you think this fits within the focus of staff priorities, and how do we give this priority so that the ideas here can be further developed?
Yeah, I think of sustainability in a far broader context. I wouldn't limit it just to any one area. And for a liaison role, I think it is wide open. So it can include all those things. There'd be a couple different ways in my mind of way you could address bringing nature to the city. One would be just an ongoing thing where the liaison's looking for opportunities, calling out issues that are observed or reported from the community and working with staff on those. We could report that back to the commission. The other would be the point person on park improvement project review. So as we look at it, those items could all be raised. What are we doing for native planting in here? Are there native trees addressed? Are we addressing invasive species? How about lighting? And that kind of focused view on every project that we bring with a special attention from liaison, I think would fit well.
So one of the three maps in the urban forest in the park master plan looks at connectivity in terms of the urban forest, in terms of pollinator corridors. There's a map that looks not only at the parks, but also how do you look at areas near creeks? How do you look at the street trees and all of that to connect for nature and bring nature sort of as fingers and patches into everywhere in Palo Alto. So I'm trying to think how and if that will ever materialize into some, because this liaison's role sounds good as you described, but it doesn't really look at the fabric of the city. And I don't know if that's something we can even do. It's big, but I was wondering about that.
I think part of the liaison role in working with staff is to help determine what can be done and answer some of the questions that you're asking. And I think starting off with a liaison role to research and investigate this further, I think is the right approach.
Okay.
But Vice Chair Lemaire, you've been quiet. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I've been listening. I think one thing as we go through this, it's important to keep in mind with our priorities, how many ad hocs we can manage, how many staff can handle, and just our own commission of 6 commissioners. And so I think as we come up with different ideas and come up with our priorities, is to keep that in mind as well. With all of our, we'll need to make our own priorities and figure out what's most important and what we can accomplish.
Agreed. Thank you. So, for the time being, I guess I'd like to get commission's thoughts on the park amenities. Kind of basically very consistent with what Jeff just said in terms of trying to limit our ad hocs. Should we plan on moving forward for the time being with a dog park and a park amenity liaison, and not have a ad hoc for this? Everyone,
I think that's a great idea, and I think we should try that. We can always revisit it if it's not working, but I think it makes sense right now.
Is anyone opposed to that idea? Okay. All right, so then the ad hocs we're looking at right now are CIP, funding opportunities, which is really publishing our communication tools, or publishing and communicating our tools. The rec projects, which will need some more focus on how to define this for something that's achievable within the 15-month period. Racket court policy, which will be disbanded once the policy update recommendation goes to council. E-bike policy with a name name potentially to get updated. Park dedication and website refresh. Any comments on this? Any better ideas for an e-bike policy name? Electric vehicle doesn't quite do it.
Motorized.
Yeah, I mean,
Motorized off-road mobility devices.
Motorized mobility policy.
Motorized conveyances is what's used in other districts sometimes.
Thank you.
And I've seen hovercrafts on trails.
I'm sorry?
I've seen hovercrafts on trails, little floating things. So I don't know how you even deal with those.
Does anybody understand if someone says motorized conveyance? Do you know what they're talking about?
well, the thing about that one, someone could easily, I guess, consider their small motorbike to be a convenience. Yeah, yeah. It could be that you just make it as we had it, e-bikes and scooters, or yeah.
Well, they have scooters and skateboards and the one-wheel devices. Maybe it's electric conveyances policy, because we're not talking about a gas engine device. Does electric conveyances work, Mandy?
Fine by me.
If nothing else, the name will serve to educate when people ask questions. What does this? If people are curious enough to ask what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the liaison rules real quickly. The aquatics, on the left we have what we had previously. On the right is based on some conversations with staff and the vice chair, what we're initial proposal is looking to fold the Baylands 10.5 liaison into the rec projects ad hoc.
Hold on that. When the city did the outreach on the 10.5 acres, there were equal number of people, if not even more, who asked to make part or all of that 10 acres into a natural area. Given that the loss of habitat on the golf course has been tremendous, and that the goal of or one of the goals of the project on the golf course was to increase habitat, and that didn't happen. I think that this 10.5 acres should have both, and cannot only, both the natural sort of habitat restoration aspect and probably 50-50. And I can resend the letter that the CRP.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Shani. I think we're getting a little too far in the weeds here, and I think we should. I appreciate what you're saying, that the Baylands 10.5 isn't specifically a recreation project. It's something to consider all potential uses of. So given that, should we keep this as a liaison role, or do we need a liaison role for it? The likelihood of something coming in the next year doesn't seem high at this point in time, but we don't know. Darren, do you have a recommendation on how to proceed on this?
This is a challenging one, Chair. When I mentioned the first tee and the 10.5 acres and the skateboard park, they all fall into those categories of large projects that require a lot of public outreach, staff time, and funding to make progress on. And will we realistically get to the 10.5 this year? It's possible, depends on how things shift and direction we get from council when items like the gym go to their attention for discussion and direction to staff. I'm not quite sure what to tell you on whether this should be an ad hoc a liaison role. I think it probably should at minimum be a liaison role as we track its development.
My question is, it seems there's not any immediate activity on it, and it would only start with activity from coming out of a rec project, which would need to consider environmental impacts and potential environmental uses as well. If there was something specific happening on that, I guess I'm not in favor of. I don't see the role of a liaison for the coming year, but I'm open to the opinion of others. And part of
is it something we can add later if it looks like there's going to be activity, and that we can agendize something to add a liaison?
Yes, thanks. And that's what kind of where I was going with that. It is something we can easily add at our discretion.
So if you added, as it was suggested earlier, to the recreational opportunities, if it became came to the top, then it could go back to being a liaison specifically for 10.5. I think it needs to go someplace. I don't think it needs to not.
We agree with that. We're trying to avoid overlap as well. If there's a liaison for 10.5 that's not part of the rec projects, then there's potential concerns.
Yeah, no, that's why I would put it in the rec projects for now. Does that overlap? Is that what, and take it away from where it is now?
That was the thought.
Yeah.
So does that mean that when it comes back, it mostly considers the recreation opportunities and not the nature restoration opportunities that half the people, at least, that commented on this when the parks master plan surveys were going forward, asked for this to be in that natural area restoration.
At this point, that would be the case if it's coming back as a recreation project. If it's coming back as more of a sustainability project, then that would have a different focus. And it's something that the sustainability liaison could potentially make a recommendation on. If there's a group that's looking to develop this for other purposes, for non-recreation purposes, that's something else that the commission should consider.
I don't think people saw that as non-recreational. They just saw that as a birding issue rather than development of intense use. And if you look at today's front page of the Mercury News and see how many people from all over the country are flying to Palo Alto to see one bird that happened to be somewhere in Midtown.
Yep.
I think that, and it's been going on now for over a week. There's hundreds and hundreds of people and they're flying from everywhere. So a birding park is a recreation facility. It's just different than a gym, you know? And I think that when the surveys were done in the past, at least half the people asked for a birding park.
Okay,
So
I appreciate that. So sorry to interrupt, but I'm concerned that we're getting bogged down here too much. I think we need to decide if this fits under rec projects, and you're saying that the natural project would be recreation as well, which sounds like it is something else that the recreation projects ad hoc could take
That's
on.
not what they usually look at, but you know, I'm not going to try and create more and more committees and liaisons here, but I'm concerned with that. Maybe it should go with the no, I don't know.
If there's a group that comes in with a potential project to develop, then we can consider how to consider it, where it fits into the commission.
Well,
We're going to move on with the other, talk about the other liaison roles, because we need to get back, we need to circle back to our priorities. So recommendation is to continue with the Baylands Tide Gate, community gardens, all Coverly Field Users Golf, GSI. We already did not have a liaison. On the Hawthorne's area planning, this was not something that there was no activity on last year, but it did get information from MidPen, but that is something that is appropriate for the Parks Commission to continue to have a liaison for, and it's something that should have some activity in the coming year. Looking to create a funding partner liaison who would be the partner for both the Palo Alto Rec Foundation and the Friends of Palo Alto Parks, and recommending that for Brown Act purposes, this should be someone who's a point person for these organizations, but is also part of the funding opportunities ad hoc. The sidewalk, keeping the PAUSD and safe routes. Sidewalk vendor policy would be a short-term rule, just to help that policy across the finish line. Skateboard park would get folded into rec projects. And then you can see the additional liaison rules we have with and the new ones, BCCP, Foothills Nature Preserve, dog parks, and park amenities. Any comments on this list? Any additional liaison roles we should look to add?
Can I ask what the situation is currently with the Ventura plan? Maybe Darren has some insight.
Or Tom?
Or Tom?
Defer to Councilmember Du Bois.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What's the status of the Ventura plan right now?
We have an ad hoc that is talking to Sobrato. That's the Fry site's a key part of that. And so council had a meeting with some preferences, and then waiting for that conversation to finish, and then it'll go back to council to select a preferred alternative. But so I think council was very strong about some of the creek restoration.
Uh-huh. So
So-
that's really good to know. And I think we were all from the commission concerned that that area doesn't have as much parkland as maybe it should. And so before that goes farther along, it would be nice if we could keep up with that. So Jeff, thank you.
Yeah, so the role of this liaison would be someone who would monitor activities of that plan and report to the commission, particularly as it applies to parks in the area, and looking to ensure that proper park resources are included with new developments in conjunction with new developments. Okay, so we're going to finalize these assignments in our these roles and assignments in our next action item, but want to circle back to talking more about specific priorities for this year and how these inform this. Looking at these ad hocs and how they fit in with the city council priorities, I put together columns of climate change, community safety, and community health, which can be considered and look to see if we can start articulating our priorities. And we're running late right now. It's probably a good time to take a 10-minute break. And in that time, maybe we can think about how these apply directly to our priorities. I'll keep this page in view along with the priorities sheet as well. So why don't we take a break until 12:51? Enjoy your lunch, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting back on board here. When everybody's back, please turn on your video so we can see you and confirm you're back. So when we can get restarted. We've got a lot to cover. I want to get started. Just waiting for Shawnee. And Darren, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for keeping the break brief so we can continue moving forward. We do want to get to try to nail down our priorities now. We're a little bit behind schedule, but we've kind of weighted in more heavily into the ad hocs and liaisons. And so when we get to that action item, I think we'll make up some time, and just want to note that the discussion we've had in terms of the ad hocs and liaison roles to include, that's a preliminary discussion focused specifically now to allow us to inform us what areas and what projects should fall under our priorities. We can still have more discussion in terms of the points that Shawnee's brought up in terms of how to include a natural focus, and for consideration, I just added something as a liaison, a natural environment ambassador that we can consider in addition to the sustainability liaison. This is something we can talk about later, just a name that I've made up. Something else that we'll want to consider as well under the park amenities liaison. Would that person be the first contact that staff would reach out to for park improvement plans and PIO reviews, or was that something you mentioned as a sustainability liaison, or maybe it goes to both of them? Just something to consider when we get back to liaisons. Here, I think it'd be helpful to look at our 2021 priorities and see which ones would apply moving forward, and which ones would not. I think we should aim for 3 or 4 priorities and try to keep them as concise and broad at the same time as we can, which is kind of been our general approach.
Chair,
Yes.
I was thinking while we were having our break that the recreational project specifically is talking about, the way we have it right now, is talking about capital improvements or things that you have to build. And I'm concerned that we don't specifically call out recreation programs, like new programs that the community might want to see instituted that have to do with kids or seniors or adults, or something that's specifically recreation programs. We probably cover it, but it just occurred to me. And I don't know where you want to put it, or maybe you don't want to put it at all.
For example, what would be under this?
Let's say there's a new dance opportunity in town that everybody wanted to take lessons. Or there is a water polo team that wanted to have lessons about, water polo is not a good thing. Or maybe there is a seniors exercise class that we're missing that we should have.
How about recreation projects and programs?
Yep, it's fine with me.
Thank you. Comments from any others? Okay, looking at our priorities from last year, at a quick glance, I think that it would make sense that Foothills Nature Preserve stewardship would not be a specifically called out priority for us. I think that's a priority that we've completed work on, and to the extent that we're not even planning to have an ad hoc specific to that. It's been a significant focus of the past 2 years, and it's nice to be able to move on. So I'm going to put a line through that just as we consider moving forward. And then looking at the ad hocs, the primary ad hocs we're talking about, and considering how they mesh with the council priorities that makes sense for us to align to the community safety and health and the climate change protection and adaptation. Funding opportunities certainly is directly related to, I'm just talking about alignment here with council priorities. Looking at funding opportunities fits in well. I guess we've already had that addressed here. So funding opportunities applies to all of them. The CIP and capital projects applies to everything we do, brought in on a high level sense. The rec projects and programs applies to community health. I'm not sure it applies to community safety.
It does.
How do you see that?
Because the more, if you offer programs or projects for people to become involved in, there's maybe less likely that crime becomes attractive to them.
Okay. Racket court policy is about health. Electric conveyances, I think applies to everything. And that's be a primary one on the safety front for us. And park dedication is health and climate change. So I'm interested in ideas that people have for what to state as our priorities for the coming year.
I'll go back to what I say all the time. We have a natural environment, and nature is a big part of the Parks Master Plan. And I think it should be here too. It fits very well with community health and safety, with climate change. I think that it fits there as well. Economic recovery, if you count the birders that come from Florida, I guess that helps with that. Yeah, I still think we need to have nature as looking at how do we improve nature in the city rather than always mitigate is an important.
And so how would you articulate it as a priority first to consider?
Nature in the city, very simple.
Unknown caller.
Okay, other ideas?
Are there any worthy of carrying over? Are we trying to come up with completely new ideas and new directions, or similar to city council who carried over some? Is that something that we're looking to do or are able to do?
Thanks, Jeff. That's an obvious place to start. And I think I think we do want to consider carryover from the. So I think we could start by copying the other three priorities in and see if we want to keep these or edit these or omit these.
I think we
or
should keep the retreat.
combine them in some manner. Nellis, you have some thoughts? You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I would say that nature in the city probably fall. I mean, could that be included as environmental sustainability and climate change? I mean, it's somewhat in some ways related. We're talking about tree canopy and that type of thing.
Can I answer that? Because I think it's really important that we start understanding I'm a biologist, I'm an ecologist, and I've been working on climate change issues for, oh God, I don't even want to tell you how many years, and as well as the biodiversity and ecology part. And from all of that, what I see is that what we really want to look at is nature and biodiversity. That's the first layer. Sustainability comes under that layer because it's not that nature is part of sustainability. If we only look at how sustainability really focuses on humans and how do we use less resources and how do we share more of the resources, right? And that's a really important part. But if we want to do that without taking care of nature and without taking care of the non-necessarily human-focused part, which is the biodiversity and the nature that we live in, then the result is essentially that we're going to lose everything. Sustainability or the human part is part of the natural world. It's not above it. So if we're going to do environmental sustainability and climate change, that's critically important. But I think that we need to look at nature and biodiversity, and maybe that's not the same. Maybe instead of saying nature in the cities, just prioritize biodiversity. It's more difficult for people to understand, and it does reflect with a lot of other things. But what we've seen in how the city council and other agencies, government agencies and people are looking at it is the sustainability is really anthropocentric. And nature and biodiversity is more than that and is bigger than that. And so I know it's not easy because we're all trained, we just have to, change how we consume and whether we use electric or gas and whether we recycle or not, and we'll save the planet. We have to look at both pieces, the biodiversity part and the human focus.
Would it be appropriate to put biodiversity, environmental sustainability, and climate change as one bullet point, or do you strongly feel that it needs to be completely separated?
If we put the biodiversity and sustainability and climate change together and they're equally weighed, then that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I was actually alluding to, that rather than having it stand out, but have it in support of nature in the city, which I think sort of ties in together.
Because Shawnee, I do see your point about the difference. And so and I don't disagree that it should be called out, but I'm wondering if it can be included together.
I suppose I can tell you some places they actually separated. Like in Mountain View, they have an overreaching priority for biodiversity. And then they also have sustainability, and those things are not meshed together. But I think meshing together, we can try that. I think that's fine. But the nature and biodiversity really need to be part of sustainability. It is in the SCAP, it just never gets addressed.
And what if we put biodiversity first, Jeff?
Yay.
As a nod to the importance of it.
And do we want to say, you want environmental sustainability? Do you want natural environment?
Just sustainability. I don't know.
Good. And I'm also looking at, we want to consider our priorities and how they, our priority projects fall under our priorities. And I appreciate what you're saying and raising the distinction on biodiversity. Shani, I like the idea of combining it, because at this point, our immediate projects aren't heavily heavily weight in the nature and the city biodiversity realm. It's not to say that we shouldn't be moving in that direction, but in terms of what we immediately have on slate, I think that makes sense.
That's fine.
So do we want to, are we happy with the language we have here now, or want to adjust it?
Could you still put, I guess, nature in the city, dash, and then the rest of it sort of falls into play, and it's just, or maybe not a dash, but it just shows that it's all connected, and as well, I mean, then, and the level of importance.
I think so. Biodiversity, nature in the city, environmental sustainability, and climate change. It's getting to be too big a mouthful for me. That's what I like, the idea of getting the word nature in there. Natural environment doesn't exactly convey nature in the city. I think it's the the intersection of the natural environment in the suburban natural and suburban environment coexisting.
I think this is okay.
Right.
It is. It gives us the opportunity to look at things through this lens. So nature and the city is in that, in a way.
Okay.
And it gives us the opportunity to look at various things that we do with biodiversity in mind, which often is not. So I'm okay with this as is now.
Okay. Let's move up to the first one we have here regarding recreation opportunities, projects, programs, resource limitations. Do we want to change this at all? Do we want to focus on projects and programs instead of as opposed to opportunities, and that we have some areas to identified to pursue, to highlight and emphasize that? Do you want to continue? Do you want to include using available resources, or develop recreation and programs?
Let me ask if I say maximize recreational opportunities using available resources. Am I putting in using available resources as sort of an opt-out anytime?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just thinking ahead, if I was looking at this from outside and saw using available resources, would I look at that as possibly being an opt-out, an opportunity to say, hey, I don't necessarily have to do that if I don't have the resources to do it, which is kind of what we're saying. But does it have to be highlighted?
I think we don't need to highlight it. It's sort of like our way of saying be real here, but I think we could have. Do people think we should eliminate using available resources?
I think that was something that I felt strongly about last time when we were doing this, because it does fall in line with the economic recovery and transition and everything that the city's been going through, being strapped for resources, staff. And I think that it's important to keep that top of mind, especially because the city council wanted to focus on economic recovery and transition, because the efficient use of staff resources is key to that.
Maybe, how about if we changed using to considering?
That's fine.
Just as a way of focusing that we're trying to maximize what we can do and be mindful of what we can do.
Right. That's good.
And do we want to continue with opportunities or change that to projects and programs?
I like opportunities.
Okay. And then what about the equity, access, and inclusion?
That's fundamental, right?
Yeah, I think that's really important to keep in there for this year. I think the equity is so important for us to think about as we're thinking about programs in parks and open space along with access and inclusion. So I think when we put it up last year, we really liked it, and I really think it's important to continue another year.
I like that.
One question about an issue that's in here, but I don't know if it needs to be separately called out, and not the issue of sea level rise.
Of what?
Sea level rise.
Hmm.
There is a lot of work currently being done in public works on sea level rise and mitigations and adaptations. It's discussions everywhere. And the tidal gate is part of that to protect the community. But there's so much discussion around it and so much going on. And I don't know if we need to consider it this year or not, if that's something that needs to be separate from climate change or not. I'm just wondering about that, and I don't know what you guys think.
I think if we consider our alignment with with council priorities, climate change means protection and adaptation, sea level rise. If we consider that climate change here encompasses protection and adaptation, then sea level rise is certainly part of climate change adaptation. So I think it's well covered under that priority.
Okay.
Then I was just doing a quick kind of check on how our ad hoc priorities would align with the priorities we're proposing. And so we could just include here in the columns Q, R, and S are the abbreviations for the priorities we're considering. And why don't we just go through and figure out where we put the X's here. So CIP review as part of rec opportunities, it's part of everything we do, as is funding. Rec projects and programs might not be part of biodiversity. What do we think about electric conveyances? Is that part of recreational? Yeah, it's part of recreational opportunities to consider. And equity and access. Yeah. Just a quick off the cuff thing, off the quick review, it looks like all of these projects are highly consistent with what we're setting up as priorities. Do we want to consider any additional priority? Do we want to consider any further update to the proposed priorities, or is someone ready to make a motion to adopt these priorities?
I'll make a motion to adopt the priorities.
Okay, so
second that.
okay, so the motion is to adopt the the 22 Parks and Recreation Commission priorities as listed on the screen here. We have a motion and a second. So is Lom with us to?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion from the maker and the second?
I have no further discussion or comments.
None from me.
Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with a vote on that, please.
Yes. Chair Greenfield,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lemire,
Yes.
Commissioner Cribbs,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes,
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes,
Chair, that's a vote of 6-0.
All right, great. We're on our way to making some progress here. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share. So our next item is to establish and confirm our ad hoc committees and liaisons, and we're pretty far along in that process. I'd like to think, and I'll share the screen that we have on that item in just a moment.
Or Chair, if like I can share as well.
Okay. Sure. You want?
Yeah, because I think I was going to take notes on what edits we have, correct?
Yeah. Why don't I share for now, because we might want to review some of the stuff we have up here, and I can hand it over to you if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Share screen. Okay, here's back where we were. We have the ad hocs that we were proposing previously listed here. Wanted to consider the titles with the names in them. Since we will be working both calendar year 22 and fiscal year 23, given that our next work plan won't be approved till approximately the end of fiscal year 23. The CIP review, the name still apply, I think is appropriate for CY 22, and that the review will be happening in the late part of this year. The racket court policy also is fine, although because we're looking to disband it sometime this year. But maybe we just call this the racket court policy update ad hoc. Since we're very focused that it's really getting to the finish line on the policy updates that are already in progress with that staff has initiated, and we're looking to come back to the commission. So thoughts on CY 22 or update here?
I like update.
Hearing no other comments, I'll take that as a agreement, implicit support of going to update. Park dedication CY 22. I'm wondering if we want to call this is something I think will continue throughout the full 15 months. Should we call this CY 22 FY 23 or 22 to 23, or does it matter? We're going to go past calendar year 22 on this is my point. That we could do dash. You have a preference of those two options? the CYFY is more specifically accurate and it's longer and more confusing. Help me here, folks.
This is Darren. Any thoughts on just having it be park dedication and not put the time frame in?
Yes, I want to make this specific, more specific rather than an open-ended activity.
And that's what it is. So put it the way it is, what it says.
But okay, we'll just go with CY. Go with this.
Yep.
Okay. So there will be another step that where we'll look to fill in our names here, but let's finish on or do you want to agree on the ad hoc committees and figure out who's going to fill those roles, or do you want to go to the confirm our liaison roles first and then fill in all the names?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go through the liaisons and then we'll fill in the names for everything.
Okay, that's where I'm leaning. Okay, so we've the open points of discussion at this point, I think, are whether or not to include a Baylands 10.5 liaison, whether that gets folded into rec projects. The concern is that it doesn't include it's not natural focus and natural nature related projects oriented in general. Then there was a discussion about adding a bring nature to the city type liaison. I called that a natural environment ambassador as an idea. Whether or not should there be a separate role for a sustainability liaison and a natural environment ambassador? If that's the case, it should probably be better off having that as two different people. If we wanted to include that all within a single role, it would obviously be one person.
Can I ask Darren, because these liaisons have a staff sort of assignment, if you were to assign a staff person to the natural environment ambassador and the sustainability, would it be the same person? Or how would you envision that functioning?
Yeah, excellent question.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I think it would be helpful to have one person covering both those from my perspective.
And then would Christine Luong be the liaison for that role?
Yes, and if it bled over, you'd probably list me as a co-liaison as it bleeds into parks and open space specific things.
Okay. Or would it make sense to have Christine be a sustainability liaison and you be the natural environment ambassador or liaison?
Yeah, I think either is fine, and it's sort of implicit that I could help out with any liaison that needed assistance, and vice versa. That if Christine was needed for something, she would, I'm sure, help us.
So my personal inclination is to fold it into a single role for the time being, a sustainability, and we can, if there becomes a need to split this out into multiple roles, we can do that easily. Bear in mind for people that the liaison and ad hoc roles get created just by an action of the commission. They don't impact the work plan directly and don't require council approval.
So can that be sustainability and biodiversity to reflect our goals, if there's going to be one only?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The next thing I was going to ask is that would we want to change the name of this? Are people okay with that? Okay. So then I think this is our final list. Where are we with Baylands 10.5?
I thought we were going to put it back up in the ad hoc committee. And I think that if it were to become a passive nature preserve, that's really recreation too. It's just a different kind of recreation. So I think that it could fit there. And then if the need arises, we could change it around. But for the discussion today.
Other people's thoughts on that?
Okay with that, as long as the idea that so many people, hundreds or thousands, I don't remember how many people participated, but it was hundreds of people in Palo Alto that wanted to see in sort of a more natural park there, that it doesn't get forgotten.
Yep. Appreciate that. Okay, so are we in agreement then that this will be our list of liaisons? Okay, so I think we have a list of ad hocs and liaisons. I'm just gonna copy these over quickly. So this becomes, just have a different tab that we'll use to set our members. Electric conveyances policy. These goes away. Okay. So these are our ad hocs we'll be looking at. There's some notes here that were previously entered, and this column here was just set to specify how many people we should be aiming for on the ad hoc.
Mm-hmm.
I think something else that we should bear in mind is that we will be getting another commissioner added to the to our group in the next few months, and so we want to get that person, the new person, involved in some of the ad hocs and liaison roles, and so some of the, if your load becomes a little bit heavy right now, it's something that we want to give up some space on moving forward. So and typically we have 3 people on the ad hocs. I just, given that we're looking at 7 ad hocs for 6 people, I just highlighted that the website refresh and CIP review and potentially park dedication or ad hocs that could get by with 2 people. Probably be best to have 3 people on the other ad hocs, and this really depends on interest. Like the way I think we can handle this is everyone can go through and let me and vote and communicate which ad hocs you're interested in. And if we end up with too many people interested in some of the ad hocs, then we'll figure out how to sort that out. And why don't we start with the new members first? Nellis.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd be interested in the electric conveyance policy, being that I have a few comments on that one, as well as the racket court policy.
Good.
Very interested in, the racket sports as far as pickleball and racket, and give you my 2 cents where it's needed on that one.
Okay. And anything else?
Recreation projects.
Okay.
And I think that we're good.
Okay. Shani.
Electric bikes. And I'm not sure why, I guess, can I ask a question? Why would the park rededication or dedication going to take so long?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Why did you suggest that park dedication should take so long?
Because it's an open thing. It's an open item. In addition to considering the Measure E site, there's other opportunities for other park dedication, and I don't know how long it would take for the entire for the process to ripple through all of the steps to ripple through the city process, and we'd want to keep the ideally the ad hoc could stay active until a potential item is taken up by city council to be involved in review and answering questions as necessary.
Okay, I prefer to only have this one because I want to have more of the liaison stuff. So if there's not enough people, then I might take that one too. But for now, just keep me on the electric conveyance.
Yeah, I would say it would be good for people to be looking to join at least 2 ad hocs.
All right, so that one.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
The CIP, just bring some continuity there. The website refresh.
And that's kind of a bonus ad hoc.
Yeah. And then I'm happy to stay on the court policy just because I've been on that one.
It's good to have continuity on these things.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else? Commissioner Cribbs.
I'm happy
Chair
to stay.
Cribbs.
I'm happy to stay on the funding opportunities for some continuity and the recreation projects.
And let's also recognize that we're not staying on the ad hoc. It is a new ad hoc, but so it's a continuing commission work in a similar, in an ongoing, in a similar related effort.
Good point.
Thank you.
So I'll change.
So funding opportunities, rec projects, and did you say another one?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Lemaire,
Yeah, I would.
Vice Chair, excuse me.
Yes, recreation projects. Funding opportunities. And CIP review.
Okay. And my interest would be CIP, electric conveyances. It's not rolling off the tongue so easily yet. And park dedication. I guess I could help with website as well. So right now we're looking at 3 for CIP, 3 for electric conveyances, 2 for funding opportunities, and for park dedication and racket court policy and website refresh, and 3 for rec projects. Is there anyone?
I would go on the racket court policy. I didn't see that before.
Okay, that so we still have a 3 with 2 people, which is fine. And I guess funding opportunities is wrapping up work that's been in process. So that's okay for 2 people. Is anybody interested in any changes or reconsidering anything or jumping in further in another area? Okay. Let's move on to liaisons. Capture. Yeah, we had All right, I think this is our list. Let's go back and check real quick. Got 19 here, and 19 here, all right. Okay, let's go through a similar exercise. Let's start with Commissioner Brown this time. And if multiple people are interested in liaison role, don't pull back, and we'll work on sorting things out and potentially having 2 liaisons for a role.
The sidewalk vendor policy, just to
Yeah,
wrap
thank you.
things up. See, dog parks, honor of my fur baby that passed away last week.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Sorry to hear that.
So, yes, but he did love the dog park. So,
So
sorry
do we-
about all the kicking.
Do
Darren and
we need a
stuff.
memorial name included in the dog park liaison role?
And then the school district city one I'd be interested in, but I'm flexible for other folks.
And are you available to attend the meetings, which are like a Wednesday morning, like 8:30 to 9:30, something like that? Darren, do you recall the times? I don't know if Kristen's with us.
I'm not sure the times, but I do believe it's like a Tuesday in the morning.
Tuesday in the morning, like once a month.
I'd have to check. So maybe that's not a good one.
I think you'd be great for it if you are available. So,
Okay.
anything else?
I'll let others go and then we can fill in if
Sure.
there's more gaps.
Shawnee,
Baylands, BCCP, and the sustainability and biodiversity. Stuff. How many are we looking at?
Yep, that's. You can say what you're interested in now, or we'll come back for another round.
Foothills and urban forestry, although that's kind of maybe part of sustainability and biodiversity.
That will be separate in that we have a specific guidance on what to pursue or how to serve as a community forum for urban forestry and related items.
I think
Okay.
that will be enough.
Yep. Commissioner Freeman.
Yeah, be nice to have so I'm assuming that most of these meet on a weekly basis. I mean, not weekly, but
No, let's clarify that. Some of these might do something on a monthly basis. Some will be more of a quarterly or less frequent. Some will be more than once a month, and the nature of the activity is depending on what's happening in a specific area. It will vary from month to month, and it may not be consistent.
okay. Oh, let me go with the park amenities. I think that would be a good one to be part of. Golf would be interesting. Coverly.
And Coverly is a liaison role that's more of a basket waiting for something to happen.
Okay.
I mean, if something is happening at Coverly, it could pretty quickly become a top priority for the commission. So now it's more of a monitoring status right now.
Fill users would be another one.
Commissioner Cripps.
The youth council. the aquatics. Unless somebody else would like to take that on. And the funding partner.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Lemaire.
Yes.
Chair, Vice Chair, I'm gonna get
Let's
that.
see here. Community gardens, I suppose. Just trying to see what's left open here. Let's see. I guess safe routes. Is that? Yeah.
Interested in foothills where we could have 2 liaisons potentially, or Ventura plan.
Sure, the Ventura plan.
All right, then I will take Baylands Tide Gate to follow up work there. Be interested in serving as field users jointly with Nellis to in a transitional manner. Hawthorns, still waiting for that to happen. And urban forestry. So this is a good first pass. We've got coverage on everything. We've got 2 on a couple. Opportunity for other people. Next pass, any interest in joining something else? We could use a second person on foothills potentially. I could do that if no one else wanted to, but it's an opportunity.
I mean, I can do foothills. You go ahead, put me down for that one.
Others? Anything else here? I guess everyone's got at least 3 here. That's pretty good coverage. Any final comments? Staff have any comments? Anything we're missing or should consider? Also, we wanted to make sure that, excuse me, ask a question before I get an answer on that. Just remember, we want to make sure a funding partner is part of the funding opportunities ad hoc, which is the case. And was there another one that a similar guideline we're looking for? I don't think so. Darren?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think it looks good. The only thing, I don't think we need to change it necessarily, but just a consideration for the foothills, some continuity from the previous ad hoc may be beneficial, but not essential.
Yeah, so it might be good if I continued on that, since I'm the only member of the ad hoc that's still here, still on the commission. Nellis, do you mind moving off of foothills?
Yeah, not a problem.
Let's see.
I want to say if somebody else wants forestry, I'm happy to give it to somebody else or stay there.
This can be a starting point, and we can be adaptive. Okay, if there's no further comments on this, then we can look for a motion, and the motion would be adopting both the ad hoc committees we have specified here with the assignments, along with the liaison roles that are here and assignments. Further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so the motion is to adopt the 2022 Parks and Recreation ad hoc committees and assignments and liaisons and assignments. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Anne. And any further discussion from the maker or second or others?
No further discussion. Very well done.
None from me.
Thanks. Lom, could you proceed with a voice vote, please?
Yes. Chair Greenfield,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lemare,
Yes.
Commissioner Cribs,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes,
Chair, that's a 6-0 vote.
Great, thank you. Right, and I think that puts us on time, back on schedule, somewhat amazingly. No, we're 20 minutes behind. We have 40 minutes to talk about work plan. Okay, Lom, or I will allow you to, or I would like you to share screen as we move forward to talk about our work plan. If you would, please.
Yes. I believe you should have a share screen at this point. Are you viewing a share screen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and okay.
Okay, so as we consider the work plan, and where we're going with this, there's really two components of it. The first component is a report of our previous work plan from 2021, and the second component is the items that will be included in our 2022 work plan. I do not expect that we will move forward with an action at the meeting today and complete this item. It was listed as an action so that we had the flexibility to take action in the event that in the fairly unlikely event that we got there. The plan at this point will be that our work plan will be completed at our March Parks and Rec meeting. I believe that's on the 22nd. And then that would be going to City Council in April for approval. And so we want to focus our time now on doing the higher level work that we can to try to get our reviews in place as best we can for the 2021 work plan, and begin listing out the items that we would include in the columns that you see on the work plan that's from the Baylands Tide Gate from last year on that item. So we're talking about the primary focus of the ad hoc, the project or the goal, the community benefits, and the measures of success are the main things. And rather than getting bogged down into wordsmithing on what we're doing, we want to focus on just concepts. And then a task will be given to each of the associated ad hocs to return with a proposed fleshed out work plan with all of the fields completed. This will be submitted to staff and will be included in our packet for the March meeting. So the processes will be that each of the ad hocs will develop the what they believe to be appropriate work plan for the work they will be undertaking and leading as part of the ad hoc. Then the full commission will review this in approving this at the March meeting. The first time that the full commission will see all of the details will be a week before our March 22nd meeting when the packet is posted. And so what we want to work on now as a group is input to guide the ad hocs as they're working to create the work plan for next year. And any questions on that? It's a little bit convoluted and not totally straightforward, and happy to talk about that as if needed. Any questions or clarifications, other suggestions as well? And I can't see anybody's hand, everyone's hands. If someone has something to say, go ahead, please just speak up. Okay, then look,
I just don't know what that work each one of us has to put together would look like. Do you have examples or something?
Yes, so everyone was sent a copy of our 2021 work plans. You should have an email on that.
See that? I just.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And Lom, you can scroll up and down a little bit, but this is the template that was used last year for the work plan. This is what was given to us. We have requested updated information from the clerk's office in terms of is this the same template we should be using for work plans? Is there any further guidance on a work plan that we should be considering? Because frankly, it was all very new last year. And we're still in the process of figuring out things as we go along.
Okay, so I did see that. I wasn't sure if we're supposed to write some document or like if this all we need to do is fill in those rubrics.
Yep, it's fill in the columns.
Okay.
It's the game we're playing.
That's fine.
So Jeff, as far as you know, there's no new work plan or revised or updated. This is from last year, right?
No, Darren, you want to comment on that, please?
Thanks. Good question. I was told by the clerk's office that they're developing one and that they were going to try to get it to us soon. What I recommend is that we move forward with this, given the time schedule. And if I get a new one, I'll help maybe move things around or work with the ad hocs to do so. But as of now, this is what we have.
Because it looked like when I read the board and commissioners handbook again this morning, it looked like it was new, but this didn't look new. So thank you for the clarification.
Sure. No, it's a good question. And I, a question I've posed is to council members is, the work plan process was it's new and we're all figuring out our way, and different commissions are taking different paths, and the work plans vary considerably from commission to commission. And right now we're in a one template, in a template one size fits all. So based on the work plans that were submitted last year by the various commissions and boards, what did council like? Can we get some examples of work plans that are considered well developed and could be used as models as we move forward? So we may get more information on that between now and our March meeting, and Darren will circulate that to the commission members, and the ad hocs will become aware of this. So real quickly, I think it's important to go through and just review this status and see if to what extent in simple terms we can decide on what the success of an ad hoc is. So starting with the Baylands tide gate, the measure for success is specified. This ad hoc has been disbanded because this ad hoc completed its goals, and a park improvement ordinance was recommended to City Council. Unfortunately, the work on the tide gate was delayed a year, so it will be starting at the end of this year instead of at the end of last year. But that was outside of our control, and it was something that we knew was a potential risk. So we're continuing with the liaison here, but the work is completed. Does anyone else have any further comment on that?
So we working on this document in concert with someone else, or providing our best input, I guess.
This is a document that the commission prepares.
Okay.
Each of the boards and commissions prepare their own work plan document. It's then submitted to City Council for approval. So there's basically a check and balance that the commissions and boards are working to support or working in areas and in projects that council is authorizing and recognizing as being consistent with their priorities and with staff priorities, and something that's appropriate to be moving forward on.
Chair, do you mind if I add on to that?
Please.
I would just say that the ad hocs are welcome to communicate with staff, both Lam and I, to assist and brainstorm together to get things in the position you want to be, but we can't consult with other commissioners until, because of Brown Act relations, we can't do that until the March meeting.
And so technically for the ad hocs, that if there's ad hocs that only have two people, a third commissioner could be involved. Okay, Lon, can we go down to the next ad hoc or next work plan item, please? So this is dog parks and restrooms. So and in this particular item, there's multiple line items which apply to the particular work plan. So if you can scroll back up, please, Lum. So we have the Ramos Park restroom, and Darren, what is the construction schedule on that? Or construction, maybe we don't need to go into that level of detail at this point, but construction is not complete. The PIO is complete and awaiting construction.
Correct.
Dog park improvements.
I think we could say for that one, Chair, that the Bulware Park, dog park, PIO was in place.
Okay. And awaiting construction.
Yes.
On the next item is off-leash dog park pilot. That item was actually completed. It wasn't successful in moving forward, but it was decided that Ramos Park was not a suitable place for off-leash park. And the last item was public education on dog park practices. Status on that?
Staff did not complete that.
Okay. So is that something that you'd be looking to complete in conjunction with the new dog park liaison?
Seems fair to me, something to continue working on.
Okay. So for this particular work plan item, it's PIO's complete, awaiting construction. I think is a good summary. just directing conversation further as you're typing along, just to keep things moving. The next item is fund development. And there were a few different line items on this as well. Support for CSD events.
So all the community events that Adam wanted to do this last year in COVID were supported. Isn't that right, Adam? And some were not because they didn't happen.
That is correct.
Okay. And how many, if we can get a number of events that were supported later to add into this, add into our report, that would be helpful. I'm assuming you don't have that off the top of your head, Adam?
No.
No, because you'd have to count all the music, the different music places on California Avenue.
Yeah, that's a little tricky. I can give an estimate.
So successful number TBD.
Yeah.
And then the relationship with our support organizations, I think that was very successful. And each of them came in to speak with us. And we've
actually twice they did.
So we've continued to foster our relationship with them.
Yep.
The guidelines published for public donation and sponsorship is really a primary task that this ad hoc will be continuing with to wrap up, and that'll be a primary focus of the work plan.
Right.
So this becomes your starting plan for the work plan, and that's why we're going through this process as well. A second reason, one is so that we can work on our annual report of reporting progress, but also to inform the related ad hocs for the following year of where items the starting point for developing their work plan. And the CIP gap analysis.
And Chair, just a note, Commissioner Kleinhaus has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Commissioner.
I just have a question. The Friends of the Parks, is Friends of Foothills Park part of that?
Friends of Foothills Park is not specifically part of that, and this has been a focus of funding partners, which is not the role that the Friends of Foothills Park have played. They did speak with us, and Darren, would you like to comment further on that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There has been a recent development where they are connected and working under their 501(c), as I understand. So they're certainly a distinct entity with a very separate and distinct focus, but for their fundraising and nonprofit status, they've got to tie into the Friends of Palo Alto Parks.
Okay.
And are they working in conjunction with environmental volunteers at all in some of the work at Foothills?
No, not specifically. By and large, theirs is independent of that.
Okay.
Darren, there are some conversations going on with grassroots and the EVs, at least they're all talking to each other, right?
That's right. Yeah, good communications.
Very good communications. And some of that comes from that stakeholders group at the city manager's office too.
That's true.
And talking
is there
about
a liaison to that stakeholder group, or how does that connect to this?
right, so I was going to bring that up in the past year that the chair and vice chair served as liaisons as members of that stakeholder group, and we can I guess we could potentially add a third person to be involved with the stakeholder group, Darren, or
yeah, I think that's feasible.
It's feasible. Why don't we and I guess if Shani is on the Foothills, is one of the Foothills liaisons, that would be a appropriate person to consider, an appropriate role. Do you want to discuss that further after the meeting, or is that something that we can make a call on now?
I think we could make the call on it now. If we'd like to add one more person, one more commissioner to that, we can do that.
And maybe you can just describe real quickly what that stakeholder group is.
Sure. It was originally put together to help address the influx of new visitors to Foothills when it opened to the general public. And it was intended to be a really diverse collection of people from Stanford and adjacent cities, all looking at and weighing in and discussing things as we went along with the process. And it's tapered off a little bit as the visitation has become more manageable, but still helpful in reviewing just the latest and being aware of what's going on. So yeah, I think it would be helpful to have another commissioner join that, and you're certainly welcome. Right now, the frequency that we're meeting is diminished a little. I think it's going to be every other month, something like that.
Well, I think
I would add to that, as a member of that stakeholders group, that one of the things that I think we want to focus on in the future is the future plans, like docent program and the relationship with a community college, and some things that we can do for the preserve can suggest in the future, Darren.
Sure.
Because it's been really effective in thinking about that and talking with different groups and stuff. So Chair, can I go back to something as I'm looking at this work plan on the funding and relationships? In the last box, it says.
Hang on a second, man. Let's finish with this interruption.
Oh,
so we
sorry.
can-
I thought we were
being
done.
Interrupted.
I think it would be hard to be on a liaison for Foothills if I'm not part of this group, or at least know about it so I can see what's going on there.
Okay, so we'll add Shawnee as a liaison to the stakeholders group.
Thank you.
Okay, and back to you.
So thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was not aware.
Back to our previously scheduled.
The PRC review of CIP priorities. Is there some way to fix that so that we can have a more timely review from the CIP committee about the gaps? Because one of the ideas is to be able to do some fundraising for things that fell out of the CIP program, but sometimes we don't know about it in enough of advance to do anything about it. Is that clear, Jeff?
Yes, and it's absolutely part of my
And
goal for that CIP ad hoc this year to work.
So how do we do
staff.
that? Because there are only two people on that committee, can we have somebody from the CIP join us? I mean, I'm aware of the Brown Act, so I don't know how to finesse what we want to do. Or what we need to do.
Darren?
Yeah, that one's a challenge. The Brown Act is really difficult to have those two sort of related ad hocs communicate. I think the only way is to perhaps I include things in the department report that can be shared for the community and the full commission.
Okay.
Maybe that's the route we take.
Well, maybe we could try that, because too many times in the past, we've been at a community meeting and there's a hole that could be filled by neighbors saying, how can we help pay for that? And by the time we get it organized, it's already passed.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault. I'm not being critical at all. I'm just trying to figure out how to get that to be more visible. So I'll look. It's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Let's pick this up.
Yeah.
More offline. So finishing up with the status on the PRC review of CIP priorities, Darren, how would you rate our success there?
CIP review, I think, was successful.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next item, which is new recreation opportunities. City gym, the measure of success was further community discussions. That definitely happened. Bayland 10.5 acres assessments. I'm not sure that we had further community discussions on that. If there were, they were at a low level and didn't really proceed. Skate park has further community discussions and a recommendation forward to city council. Certainly were further discussions, but I don't think we have not forwarded a recommendation yet. So that's a partial. First tee, uh, have we achieved more youth is involved?
Well, we did take action on a public-private partnership.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Shared facilities with city and PAUSD and also with sports organizations. I'm not sure anything happened on the first one.
No, nothing with shared facilities.
Yeah, and the survey regarding ethnic and gender opportunities.
I don't think so.
No.
All right, so things to consider for next time.
Yep.
Foothills Nature Preserve, that is completed and disbanded. Recommendation was forwarded to City Council, and they will be considering that on a future agenda. CIP review. List of gaps to PRC, potentially identifying potential supplemental funding opportunities. I don't think we were successful in that. And that's something to strive for in the coming year. We did review and discuss the plan, the second item, so that was completed. But I think, again, it's a matter of timing when we can get access to this information to have an opportunity to influence what happens down the road from us. And this one's a burden for staff to be able to carve out the time to be able to review this with the commission within the limited window they have access to this information. Is that fair, Darren?
Yes.
You. Racket court policy will be in process, not completed.
Chair, would it be fair to add in that pickleball rules were completed?
Oh, yeah, please. Absolutely. And I've heard some requests that pickleball rules be posted more prominently, that there's court rules. For example, the amount of time someone can sit on to play on a court versus pickleball conventions, rather than being a 75 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever the court time is. The convention is 20 minutes on, and then the next group rotates. Is that something that will be addressed in the pickleball or in the court policy that we'll be reviewing, that will be coming back to the commission?
Chair Greenfield, I can communicate that. So that was actually what has already been passed forward. That's part of the rules that were approved. It's just they haven't gone to the consent council for the city council. So that's I'm trying to get it through March 7th. There's been some delay with just people review and things like that. As soon as that gets approved, our signs are ready to go, and those rules will be posted and visible on all the sites. I just didn't want to do that. Couldn't really do that until it got final approval, which has taken longer than it normally would, but it's in the process.
Yeah,
so once that happens, that will be put up.
Thank you so much for the clarification. I was hoping we had that addressed. That's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move on and see if we can start work on the 22 work plans. And I guess I would suggest that we prioritize talking about the new work plan items as opposed to the the items that are carrying over from another item that are related to the previous year's work plan. I think those ad hocs have a pretty good head start and basis on where what direction they'll be moving in. So this would mean we're talking about the electric conveyances policy and park dedication ad hocs and associated work plans. And since I'm on both of those ad hocs, any help that other people can give to give the group and me a head start, that'd be great. Let's start. So Lam, you have a template here, and we're talking about the project and priority. That's great. Let's start with the electric conveyances policy. And so what is real? We need to try to understand what is realistic to try to accomplish this year. Is this a scoping process where we're certainly we can be researching neighboring policies of neighboring jurisdictions, and review how they apply to Palo Alto. Anyone else want to add something on this?
That's part of it or not, but we could research some of the science. A lot of it is done by other jurisdictions, but we can look at the science.
Yeah, okay, so the research, including signage, that's good.
Including science.
Science, sorry.
Not signage.
Signage, the science, okay.
I think.
Sorry,
Go
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just have a question about how detailed, because this seems like it's getting into the how of the policy creation and update it's done. And if that's how detailed we should be with some of this, seems like one of the more narrow focused ones. And I mean, we can carve out each of these into individual actions, but I don't want to pigeonhole any committee, any ad hoc into doing things a certain way.
Yeah, thanks for reeling us in. And also, I'll note that we have 10 minutes left, so let's give this. We'll spend 5 minutes on electric conveyances and 5 minutes on park dedication. So
I was going to say on the research, make that a little bit more expansive, I guess. Reach out not only with the neighboring, but also you'll see what other entities are doing across the country, because they are related.
So neighboring and national.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
It's all out there.
I do think we need to look at the science of it.
Yep. So let's add the science. Add science. And I think actually looking at signage would be helpful too. That speaks a lot in pragmatic terms of. And the benefits are safety, environmental, the preservation of natural environment. And you can put these all in one field. We don't. It can just be things strung together. The preservation of natural environment, access. Increased access.
That's an assumption.
Yep.
Access needs to be evaluated. We don't know.
Yes. So we're evaluating. So I guess part of the research is balancing access with safety and environmental protection. With access and recreation. And I think we'll probably need to be pretty conservative in what we're trying to accomplish. I don't know that we'll bring I don't know if Darren, do you think it's realistic to try to have a policy recommendation as a measure of success, or we should bring some sort of recommendation to council, but is it more of scoping, or would it be a policy?
Normally, I'm sort of conservative with these, Chair, because I hate to let anyone down, but I would aim for completing this. I think if we really put our effort towards this, we can get this done.
Okay. So measure of success is a policy recommendation to city council.
Yes.
Anyone, especially who's not on the ad hoc, have some comments to add here? So Jeff or Ann or Mandy? Lawman, I don't know if you got the measure of success would be a policy recommendation to city council. Anyone else have anything to add on this before we move on to park dedication? Okay, for park dedication. We talked about reviewing and making recommendation regarding potential rededication of Bixby Park 10 acres. And you can cut that out. You can cut and paste that out of the ad hoc document if you have that. And then we also have consider other park dedication opportunities, research and review.
At some point, was there not a discussion about the pros and cons of park dedication?
So that when we're reviewing the rededication of Bixby, for example, it should be a balanced discussion, which includes the benefits and and of doing so, and reasons to consider not doing it as well.
Yeah, this was not specific to Bigsby. This was in general, a couple of years ago. So.
Benefits increased park, dedicated park space to meet master plan goals. Do we have any mandates on the park space, or is it a goal?
There were, you can't have mandates in that plan, but it did have, oh, we want to have this many acres for this many people, right?
I'm wondering if we have any mandates anywhere else, Darren?
No, other than what Commissioner Kleinhaus just mentioned, our comp plan and master plan goals.
There's the Quimby Act, but I don't know, does that apply?
I don't think it is a mandate that we achieve those acres per resident goals.
All right.
And the measure of success is going to be recommendation to the council on the Measure E site and as far as the first item, measure of success would be a recommendation to city council regarding Bixby Park, regarding the Measure E site. I think we should make a recommendation whether we were recommending to rededicate it or not. I think it's appropriate for a recommendation to come from the council or from the commission to council. And measure of success would be on the second item would be reviewing other potential sites, discussing within the commission, and forwarding a recommendation to council if appropriate. We're not going to forward a recommendation to council if we don't recommend any other sites for dedication. Anything anyone would like to add? Does anyone have questions about the work plans that we'll be considering for the other ad hocs? So the CIP review, funding opportunities, racket court policy, rec projects. These will be the other work plans. So we're looking at 6 work plans coming out of the commission. So this is an opportunity for the full commission to speak openly on any of these subjects. Is there any members of any commission members that aren't part of one of these ad hocs that want to make sure some of their input is heard?
Can you put this back of the ad hocs?
I'm sorry?
Can you put the list of the ad hocs back?
Sure. I could. And we're about to hit time too. We want to be wrapping up quickly as well. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's where in the recreation project, some kind of a integration of the biodiversity where possible.
Okay. Anything else?
Jeff, can we see the list of the assigned people to the different ad hocs, please?
Can you see that in what I'm sharing?
I can't see it now. I can only see the ad hocs and the staff liaisons. I don't have the 2022 members.
I'm sharing the wrong page. Hang on. How about now?
Yeah, I can see it now. Thank you.
Many windows to choose from. So we are at 2:30 now, which is our targeted end time. Want to thank everyone for hanging in there for 4 hours. It went pretty quickly for me. I hope it went pretty quickly for in general for the rest of you as well. Does anyone have any final comments they'd like to make? And we're still open to any further discussion on this item.
Yeah, it'll be great when we all can get together in person and have a great lunch and conversation.
Yes, it would be. Well, I want to thank all the commission members and staff. People have done at different levels of work preparing for this. It's a lot to pull together, and a lot of it was done very recently. And so I want to thank Darren and Lom and Jeff for their hard work on making this an informative and productive event. I look forward to working with everyone in the coming year. Look forward to getting a new member added to our commission as well. And thank all the staff for participation in the event and all their assistance and support throughout the year. And Darren, do you have anything else you'd like to say, or are we ready to close here?
Yes, Chair, just to echo the sentiments you just shared, appreciate staff being here and spending so much time with us and helping out. Really looking forward to working with this commission. Staff's excited about this and want to partner with you and make the city as good as we can make it and offer great programs and projects and parks and open space. And Chair, masterful job leading this. Thank you for your leadership and all the prep work you put in this, and Vice Chair as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I couldn't do it without you. Vice Chair, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing further, just to thank everyone for their participation and input to what we are doing, and excited for see what our commission can do in this next 15 months.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, everyone. I think we've articulated a reasonable set of goals that we can work forward on, and look forward to our next meeting, which will be on February 22nd. See you then.
Thank you.